After getting drunk, he mistook a village beauty for his wife. Splash! Splash! There was a sound of water dripping in the yard. Wang Daniu opened his eyes in a daze and subconsciously touched his crotch, thinking that he had wet the bed. But there was nothing. Wang Daniu tiptoed out of bed and opened a crack in the door. In the moonlight, he saw a charming woman scooping water and pouring it on her shoulders. It turned out that someone was taking a bath. Chapter 1 is my sister-in-law taking a bath. Splash, splash. There was a sound of water dripping in the yard. Wang Daniu opened his eyes in a daze and touched it subconsciously, thinking that he had wet the bed. He tiptoed out of bed and opened a crack in the door. In the moonlight, he saw a charming woman scooping water and pouring it on her shoulders. It turned out that it was my sister-in-law Jiang Yinhua who was taking a bath. The water flowed along her fair skin and rolled down smoothly. Wang Daniu's blood was boiling and he quickly swallowed his saliva. It was very exciting to Peep, but he wanted to do something practical, otherwise he would be suffocated. I can't care so much. This woman is my sister-in-law, but today he is going all out. Wang Daniu pushed open the door, walked out with his bare chest, and hugged Jiang Yinhua who was taking a bath from behind. Jiang Yinhua was startled and was about to scream, but a big hand covered her mouth. Sister-in-law, it's me, don't scream. Jiang Yinhua shuddered all over. She never dreamed that the person behind her would be so bold. Since her husband died, she hadn't been close to anyone for 3 years. Suddenly, she was hugged by her grown-up brother-in-law, and she felt numb and trembling. Daniu, we can't cross the line, or we will be drowned by spit. Jiang Yinhua still struggled hard. But that little strength soon fell into the quagmire. 2 powerful hands held her closer, almost suffocating her. A strong panting sounded in her ears. Why not? My brother has been dead for almost 3 years. Do we have to wait any longer? Wang Daniu's tiger eyes flashed, staring greedily at his sister-in-law's white jade skin. Jiang Yinhua's resistance was within his expectations. In this small mountain village, it was unacceptable for a sister-in-law and a brother-in-law to get together. But Wang Daniu was a 22-year-old adult man. Sister-in-law Yinhua was only 25 or 26 years old. Not only was she beautiful, but her skin was as fair and tender as that of a female college student. Adolescent Wang Daniu felt his body was hot and he felt like he was about to burst with hormones. He couldn't control himself and pounced on her. Under the moonlight, the 2 figures were almost stuck together. Wang Daniu kissed Jiang Yinhua's earlobe passionately, and Yinhua was also hot all over and her eyes were blurred. The 2 were about to break the bottom line, but the last bit of reason still made Jiang Yinhua push Wang Daniu away with all her strength. No, you should find a good woman. Yinhua protected his chest and didn't dare to look at Wang Daniu's heroic appearance. What's wrong with sister-in-law? You're the only thing on my mind. I can't control myself at all. Wang Daniu had erotic dreams many times, and they were all about doing that kind of thing with his sister-in-law. When he woke up, the sheets were wet. When their eyes met, Wang Daniu's eyes were bloodshot, and he pounced on her again like a hungry wolf. Daniu, don't mess around. Jiang Yinhua used both hands and feet to warn her sternly. Wang Daniu hugged her waist and thighs directly, and took her out of the big vat with one force, and went straight into their house and threw her on the bed. Sister-in-law, since your brother left, there has been no man to accompany you, right? Are you feeling empty now? As a widow for 3 years, life was hard, and Wang Daniu hit the nail on the head for Jiang Yinhua. She lowered her head and kept silent. Wang Daniu raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a sly smile, and began to untie his belt, and soon he confessed to her. Sister-in-law, you see how much my brother and I look alike. You will treat me as my brother and I will treat you as my wife. Let's have a good time. Jiang Yinhua was upset when she heard this. How could she not have feelings for Wang Daniu after spending 3 years with him day and night? Wang Daniu was handsome and strong, and there were countless women who were thinking about him. Daniu, I don't want to delay you. With your conditions, which woman would not love you? Hearing this, Wang Daniu smiled even more happily, stretched out his hand to grab Jiang Yinhua's little hand, and slowly put it on his chest. So your reserve is all fake. You have feelings for me, right? My brother is in poor health and has no offspring. If we are together, we will definitely get pregnant. Jiang Yinhua's body shook violently. Her dead husband was a patient. He always ended when he was excited, and he could not enjoy himself, let alone leave a boy and a girl. Wang Daniu in front of him was a strong young man, and his thing was very powerful. If any woman is with him, it would be so cool. Jiang Yinhua's heart is becoming more and more conflicted, and her cheeks are as red as an apple. When Wang Daniu approaches again, Jiang Yinhua just pretends to get into the bed half-heartedly. Wang Daniu hugs Jiang Yinhua and sniffs hard. "Sister-in-law, you smell so good. I will make this a done deal today, sister-in-law, don't be nervous." Soon the bed is churning, the wooden bed is creaking, and a layer of window paper is about to be broken. Cough cough. With a violent cough, the light in the east room comes on, and the two people stop moving. Oh no, Grandpa is awake. Jiang Yinhua fumbles nervously to find clothes. "You bastard, you shameless thing, you did such a shameless thing, I will break your dog legs." The two people's movement was so loud that they finally woke up the old man, who rushed in with his crutches and hit Wang Daniu on the buttocks. "Ouch, Grandpa, don't really hit me." Wang Daniu was not afraid of anything, but he was afraid that his grandfather would get angry. He didn't care about it at the moment, and jumped off the bed with his pants. The old man chased him with a cane and hit him. Wang Daniu had no choice but to leave his sister-in-law and run away. The village they lived in was called Daohua village. There were cliffs everywhere. Cows and sheep often fell down and died during the day, not to mention at night. Wang Daniu was panicked and felt that his feet were empty. With a plop, he fell off the cliff. It was over. He died young without even touching a woman. It was so aggrieved. Wang Daniu lost consciousness after a dizzy spell. I don't know how long it took, but I heard the sound of dripping water. Is my sister-in-law taking a bath again? Wang Daniu suddenly opened his eyes and sat up. He found himself in a cold pond, and there was a cliff above him. Luckily, he fell from the cliff and landed in the middle of the pond, which saved his life. Wang Daniu stretched his muscles and bones, and found that he was fine. God really didn't want to kill me. Thankfully, Wang Daniu stood up and prepared to go ashore to find a way out, but found that he was not wearing anything, so he quickly retreated into the water. This is impossible. He ran out in his shorts, how could he be gone? He. A clear and pleasant laugh came, which scared Wang Daniu. "Husband, there is only me here, why are you shy, come here quickly." "Husband. What's going on?" Wang Daniu was in a trance. He looked in the direction of the sound and found a lush woman sitting on a piece of jade as white as mutton fat not far away. She was covered in a thin gauze with gold and silver threads, and a slender and flawless jade arm was swaying gently towards him. Chapter 2 Dragon Goddess, Dragon Magic. Through the thin dress, you can still see that the woman's skin is extremely tender and smooth. My sister-in-law's skin is fair in the whole village, but compared with the beauty in front of him, it is not at the same level. The woman in front of him is spotless, with a perfect figure and a pair of bright eyes. This woman is quite open-minded. Wang Daniu was stunned after just one look and couldn't move his legs. "Whose daughter are you? Why haven't I seen you before?" Wang Daniu asked foolishly. The woman smiled and the silk brushed her face gently. "My destined person, I am the Dragon Goddess, and I have been waiting for you here for 1,000 years. Dragon Goddess. Wang Daniu felt a little confused in time and space, and his head was buzzing. Seeing Wang Daniu's ignorant look, the fairy's eyes became bright, and a jade foot stretched out from the hem of her skirt and walked down the jade stone. Every time the fairy took a step, her body showed a graceful S shape, and her nearly perfect figure was very proud. It took only a moment for her to come to Wang Daniu's side. "Fuck, I'm not wearing pants." Wang Daniu was quick-witted and quickly squatted down to hide the source of trouble under the water. "Stand there, Wang Daniu, I'm not a casual person. You said you would wait for me for 1,000 years, why did you wait for me? This woman is as beautiful as a peach, and Wang Daniu certainly doesn't want to miss this good fortune, but the more he looks at this plot, the more it looks like a Chinese ghost story." For his own life, Wang Daniu still drowned his desire in the cold pool. The little fairy smiled sweetly. "My last calamity is called love calamity. You fell from the sky naked, don't you want to help this fairy a little favor? What can I do to help?" Seeing that the little fairy was quite proactive, Wang Daniu couldn't help but feel a little itchy. It is really a blessing to survive a disaster. I fell off a cliff and was raped by a fairy. Looking around, there was a cave in the wilderness, a man and a woman, and a ready-made couple bath. This is the best match. If I don't do something, can I still be considered a man? Wang Daniu's heart was moved, but the fairy on the other side was getting impatient. He gently clicked his fingers at his waist, and the outermost veil slipped off his snow-white shoulders. Wang Daniu squatted on the gift, looking up from below, and the woman's figure was unobstructed. The waves gushed out, and Wang Daniu's throat couldn't help but crack, and his whole body was a little hot. At this time, I really wanted to have a refreshing bite in the tender place. The little fairy took a deep breath, as if she was scared and made up her mind, and opened the last button with her orchid jade fingers. There was no way, her thousand-year love tribulation was to experience the affairs between men and women in the mortal world and become a man's wife to get rid of the tribulation. Maybe it was because her location was too remote. The last time she encountered a male lizard was 200 years ago. This time she would never miss the opportunity, otherwise she would be wiped out. The man in front of her looked good, but she didn't expect him to stay awake under her extreme charm. What a waste of time. The fairy blew a breath of fairy air at Wang Daniu, and Wang Daniu's blood boiled instantly, and the physiological reaction of a man became uncontrollable. Driven by instinct, Wang Daniu stood up from the water and held the fairy's arm tightly. The warm and soft feeling softened his whole body with the close contact. The things in front of him began to blur, and Wang Daniu's mind appeared the fairy's graceful dance, so beautiful and tempting. Wang Daniu was confused and couldn't resist the temptation. His hands slowly wandered along the silky waist to explore. As they rubbed their ears against each other, the fairy's delicate body trembled slightly, making the sound of dragons and phoenixes. The two seemed to merge into one and sank into the cold pond. After an unknown amount of time, the wind and rain stopped. A bright light flashed before Wang Daniu's eyes, and he suddenly opened his eyes. "Little fairy, don't go!" Wang Daniu shouted, and then he found that the sun was shining down from the top of his head. It was still late at night when he fell off the cliff, and now it was noon, and he was still soaking in the cold pond. There was nothing around, so where was the fairy? Was I dreaming just now? What a pity for a good dream. Wang Daniu felt incredible and scratched the back of his head anxiously. Buzz. There was a sharp pain in his mind, and a book appeared in his mind, with 4 golden characters on the cover, Shenlong Dafar. The Dragon Goddess, the Dragon Method. Wang Daniu muttered a few words, and suddenly he was enlightened, and hurried to check it out. This is actually a method of cultivating immortals. This method encompasses all phenomena in the world and has infinite uses. It can be said that it can go to heaven and earth and instantly kill all martial arts secrets in novels. The key is that it is true. The record from the beginning of Qi training to ascending to immortality is very complete. No matter how you look at it, you can't tell it's fake. You don't know until you see it. The world is really wonderful. Wang Daniu fell into the pool with a gulp. He really needed to calm down. But soon he stood up with a straight back, clenched his fists, looked at his muscles, and his whole body was full of strength. Looking at himself, he was actually standing on the pool, and he had been soaking for a night, and there was no sign of catching a cold. Conclusion: this code is real and effective. The method is real, and the heroine of the Wushan cloud rain that night should also be real. Wang Daniu looked around again, trying to find the woman who had been gentle with him all night. Don't look for me, this is the reward you deserve. This skill is the secret skill of the Dragon God clan. The practice of this skill is to accumulate merits. The more merits you have, the stronger your ability will be. At this time, a gentle and clear female voice suddenly came into Wang Daniu's mind. It's her. This voice is very familiar, and you will never forget it once you hear it. Fairy sister, are you just leaving like this? Although it was only one night of tenderness, Wang Daniu felt a sense of sadness at the moment, and his mind kept recalling the lingering scenes of the two. I didn't expect that his first woman was not his sister-in-law, but a fairy. I have successfully passed the tribulation and have returned to the heavenly court as a fairy. As for your destined person, you must practice Shenlong Dafar diligently. Maybe we can meet again in heaven. Fairy sister, where are you? Come out and see me. As if the little fairy was right beside him and could hear his voice, Wang Daniu ran around and shouted loudly. Come out. But this time the fairy's sweet voice completely disappeared, and no matter how hard Wang Daniu tried, there was no response. Alas. Forget it, Shu Xian slept with a snake, and I slept with a dragon, which is also a lucky man. Fairy sister, wait, sooner or later we will be reunited as husband and wife. Wang Daniu sighed and put away his thoughts, went to the jade stone, picked up a set of clothes left by the dragon goddess and put them on. Then he was about to find a way to climb back up the mountain, when he heard a woman scream. Help! You bastard, get out of here! Chapter 3 The widow from the neighboring Xinghua village. In broad daylight, someone was trying to do something in the dense forest. Wang Daniu followed the sound and walked out of the cave. On the hillside, a beautiful woman was surrounded by several little hooligans. At this moment, she was leaning against the rock wall and kept screaming. This beautiful woman was a widow from the neighboring Xinghua village. Her name was Yang Mimi. Although she was already a young woman, she was still beautiful and charming. Har har har. Seeing the struggle of the beautiful woman, the little hooligans became more and more proud. Brother Gang, this little girl is quite powerful. A little yellow-haired boy said with a smile. The little hooligans called Brother Gang smiled and their faces were full of smiles. Their lustful eyes were circling around Yang Mimi's sensitive parts. Little girl, the more you struggle, the more I feel good. Do you know why I call you Brother Gang? Brother Gang is nicknamed by others. No matter you are a young wife or a young widow, Brother Gang can satisfy you. The little ruffian's face showed a very ecstatic expression, and the corners of his mouth curled up to reveal an evil smile. Yang Mimi was ashamed and angry. She stomped her feet in anger, covered her heart with one hand, and said with gritted teeth, "If you take another step forward, I will jump off the cliff." Brother Gang was unmoved and threw his bellaband into the air, preparing for further action. Brother Gang, this is Yang Mimi, the young widow of Xinghua village. I heard that she is a heroic woman. The village also erected a chastity arch for her. Let's not cause any deaths. At this time, a younger brother suddenly said. Brother Gang laughed dumbly. This young widow must have not been touched by a man for a long time. I am learning from Lei Feng and doing good deeds. Don't you guys want to have some meat? The few people around Brother Gang were all idle young men. Seeing that the prey was in hand, they all wanted to have fun. When they heard this, they all nodded in agreement. Brother Gang is right. I heard that widows are the most coquettish. Let's line up to make her feel good. After saying this, a circle of ruffians surrounded Yang Mimi and began to untie their belts. Yang Mimi was frightened and could only watch and wait for the murder. Bang! Wang Daniu arrived and kicked Wang Gang's butt. Wang Gang flew more than 10 meters away and landed on his mouth. Wang Daniu was stunned. He didn't expect that his kick would be so powerful. Who dares to kick me? Wang Gang usually walks sideways in the village. He wiped the mud from the corner of his mouth and stood up. Looking up, he saw Wang Daniu, a fool, protecting Yang Mimi. Fuck, you are so bold that you dare to ruin my good deeds. Seeing who is coming, Wang Gang and his brothers behind him suddenly have fierce faces and arrogant attitudes. Wang Daniu's family is poor, and his parents and brother have died. He has no one to rely on in the village. He is honest and can't do anything with a slap. How dare such a person dare to touch the taboo? Wang Gang naturally has to teach him a lesson, otherwise how can he survive in the village in the future? Wang Daniu, for the sake of being from the same village, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times, and I'll kill you, otherwise. Otherwise, what? Wang Daniu smiled contemptuously. He was no longer the honest man who allowed himself to be bullied. He took a step forward and slapped Wang Gang in the face. Wang Gang retched for a while, spitting out 2 front teeth from his mouth, and immediately covered his face and barked like a mad dog. Beat him for me. The younger brothers behind him rushed forward, and Wang Daniu just waved his hand casually, and a group of people suddenly fell to the ground in a twisted manner. Oh my god, there's a ghost, run, run. The mob scattered like birds and beasts, and only Yang Mimi and Wang Daniu were left in the valley. The crisis was resolved, and Yang Mimi fell into Wang Daniu's arms. Wang Daniu quickly helped her up and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Leaning on Daniu's broad and warm chest, Yang Mimi heard her heartbeat and was inexplicably excited. It's okay, Brother Daniu, it's all thanks to you today, otherwise I would have to jump off the cliff and commit suicide. The beautiful woman's eyes flashed with tears, and she thanked him again and again. You're welcome, you are from Xinghua village, right? You can't stay here for long, I'll take you back. Yang Mimi nodded, and the two of them prepared to return to the village quickly. Who would have thought that young Mimi had just taken 2 steps when she felt a piercing pain in her ankle? Her left leg softened and she fell to the ground. Sister Yan, what's wrong with you? Wang Daniu quickly stepped forward and asked. I sprained my leg when I was fighting with those gangsters just now, and I can't seem to walk anymore. Yang Mimi frowned slightly, as if she sure was holding her heart, and she looked very charming. Now they were on the cliff, and Wang Daniu didn't have the ability to carry a woman up there. What should he do? Wang Daniu suddenly remembered that he had a secret book, Shenlong Darfar, in his mind. He quickly searched in his mind for a while, and sure enough, there were medical skills for treating injuries. Wang Daniu was relieved. My ancestors know some methods to treat muscle and bone dislocations, otherwise I can help you. You can treat diseases. Yang Mimi said happily, great, then I'll trouble you, brother. Okay, but I have to check where you are injured first. Wang Daniu looked at Yang Mimi's right leg and said. Since it was for treatment, Yang Mimi had nothing to say, and took the initiative to stretch her foot in front of Wang Daniu. You check it. Although he said so, Wang Daniu saw a trace of entanglement in her panic eyes. A young widow is quite proud. Wang Daniu squatted down and looked at Yang Mimi's plump body for the first time. Compared with his sister-in-law, Yang Mimi is a little fat, but more plump and stylish, a proper young woman style. No wonder she is so proud. Daniu stared straight at her and reacted unconsciously. Seeing Wang Daniu's face turn red, Yang Mimi asked curiously, brother, what's the problem? Wang Daniu swallowed dryly to cover up his embarrassment, fearing that Yang Mimi would see this embarrassing scene. The next moment, Yang Mimi's cheeks turned red, and she saw it inadvertently. From the outline, it can be seen that Wang Daniu's thing is a bit big. After 3 years of widowhood, her hunger and thirst have not been satisfied, and the emptiness of body and mind is about to be unbearable. Ahem, it's okay. I see your leg is a little swollen. You'd better take off your pants. Wang Daniu said, holding up Yang Mimi's injured long leg and taking off her shoes first. A pair of snow-white golden lotus appeared in front of him. Although not 3 inches long, they were equally small, white and shining. Wang Daniu's hands slid along the curve of the instep, trying to determine the injured part. As Wang Daniu caressed, Yang Mimi's delicate body trembled. The desire suppressed in the heart was gradually awakened and exposed. Yang Mimi's eyes became very blurred, her cherry lips slightly pouted, and she couldn't help but gasp. Chapter 4, The Smiling Matchmaker Announces the Good News. Brother Daniu, I want. Yang Mimi hesitated to speak. Wang Daniu looked at his charming eyes and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. I am happy to help people solve their problems. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Daniu's hand suddenly turned, and there was a crackling sound, and Yang Mimi let out a howl. Okay, it should be fine. Wang Daniu stood up while holding up Yang Mimi's peach buttocks. Yang Mimi stretched her legs and was pleasantly surprised. Oh my, it's amazing. It doesn't hurt at all. Brother Daniu, how do you want me to thank you? Yang Mimi was still savoring the intimate contact just now, staring at Wang Daniu with an unsatisfied look. Don't mistake me for those hooligans. I won't take advantage of others. Now that you are well, hurry back to the village. Yang Mimi felt empty and lost in her heart. This guy was too much of a straight man. The two of them climbed up the cliff one after the other, and when they saw the entrance of Dahua village, they parted ways and went back to their homes. Wang Daniu peeked into their house stealthily. His sister-in-law was nowhere to be seen. Only his grandfather Wang Taigun had a sullen face, narrowed eyes, and was smoking his pipe one puff after another. He. Wang Daniu stuck out his tongue and said tentatively, Grandpa, you look so ugly. You've made even a turtle green with anger. It's really embarrassing. Wang Taigun stood up suddenly and smashed Wang Daniu's head with the copper pipe in his hand. Wang Daniu knew his grandfather's temper very well. Normally, he would just turn his head to avoid it, but this time he did not dodge. Bang! The copper rod hit Wang Daniu's head hard and broke in the middle, and the old man was knocked to the ground. Bleeding is gushing out. You bastard, why don't you hide? Wang Daniu has depended on his grandfather since he was a child, and he respects and honors his grandfather from the bottom of his heart. Seeing his grandfather fall, his face turned pale with fright. He rushed forward and knelt down in front of the old man. Grandpa, you can hit me or scold me if you want, but please take care of yourself. Well, why did I give birth to something like you? You have grown up and become capable, but you have done such shameful things. I might as well die. Wang Taigun slapped his thigh and burst into tears. I can't understand it. My brother is gone, and my sister-in-law and I love each other. She's single and I'm unmarried, so why can't we be together? Who is being bothered? You dare to be so stubborn? Wang Taigun stretched out his hand and slapped himself twice in the face. I am too embarrassed to see anyone. The old man tried everything, including crying, making a fuss, and threatening to commit suicide, just to prevent the two from being together. Wang Daniu lived up to his name. He kowtowed twice and stuck his neck out like a stubborn donkey. Grandpa, I'm going to be honest with you today. I've liked my sister-in-law for a long time. If I can't marry her in this life, then I might as well die. Then there will be no one to see you off to the end. You threatened me. It really pissed me off. Silly boy, you won't turn back until you hit the wall. Do you really think that Grandpa doesn't let you two be together just for the sake of his worthless reputation? After Wang Daniu made some harsh remarks, the old man stopped crying and wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. I don't agree with you two being together, it's for your own good. My grandson. Wang Taigun's words completely confused Wang Daniu. Grandpa, what do you mean? Wang Taigun shook his head. It seemed that some things had to be left unsaid. Your sister-in-law, she is an unlucky person. She is too unlucky and killed your brother. I can't let you die too. You are the only child of the Wang family. If I don't leave a child for the Wang family, I won't be able to face my ancestors even if I die. Wang Taigun said this with a sad expression, wiped his nose, and his eyes flashed coldly. If you dare to be with your sister-in-law, I will smash my old bones to death. Grandpa's attitude was very firm. Wang Daniu was heartbroken and he remained silent. He knows his grandfather best. He is capable of doing such a thing. He can't really force his grandfather to death just to get married. The atmosphere suddenly dropped to freezing point. The two people were competing secretly, and the room was eerily quiet. Bang! At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Who? The two donkeys asked at the same time in an unpleasant tone. Oh, it's really true that man proposes, not God. You two are here, and I am Wang Zhaodi. A sarcastic laugh came from outside the door. Smiling matchmaker. Why is she here? The grandfather and grandson quickly calmed down, got up from the ground, cleaned up the battlefield, and said, Come in. Matchmaker Wang, wearing a flowered shirt, walked in, her face full of joy and her eyes fixed on Wang Daniu. Oh my, your family is going to have good luck with love, har har har. These words were naturally spoken to Wang Daniu, but Wang Daniu was still thinking about his sister-in-law and could not help but frowning. What are you doing in my house? Matchmaker Wang looked at Wang Daniu with a smile and reached out to touch his biceps. Of course I'm here to tell you the good news. Someone has taken a fancy to you. No. Wang Daniu refused. Oh, you're quite angry. Young people shouldn't be so arrogant. With your family's poor conditions, you should be happy that someone asked me to be a matchmaker. If you miss the opportunity, you may end up being single for the rest of your life and end the Wang family's lineage. These words hit the heart of old man Wang Taigun, and sure enough, Wang Taigun spoke. Aunt Wang, don't listen to the child. I don't know who the other party is from. Tell me about it. Matchmaker Wang covered her mouth and said with her waist shaking, Your family should burn incense, the girl is very pretty, I have brought her here, don't you want to meet her? See, let's meet. Wang Taigun said firmly, Hurry up and take the girl away. Wang Daniu sighed. The matchmaker came at the right time. The relationship between the grandfather and grandson was at a standstill, and Wang Daniu didn't want to have a head-on conflict with the old man again. It's good to have an extra buffer zone now. Anyway, I only have my sister-in-law in my heart, and I will not marry anyone else in this life. Other women are not in Wang Daniu's eyes at all. He just takes a glance and says they are not good enough. Then please invite the person in. After Wang Daniu said this, he sat on the chair with a dark face, and matchmaker Wang went out happily to announce the good news. After a while, a petite woman dressed exquisitely walked in slowly. Wang Daniu raised his eyes, ready to find fault and find a reason to get rid of him. When I looked up, I was suddenly stunned. A familiar face appeared in front of me. A few hours ago, the two had just experienced a period of friendship and close contact, and this young wife turned out to be Yang Mimi, whom he had just rescued. The words Wang Daniu had prepared turned around in his mouth and he swallowed them hard. Compared to the embarrassment when they first met, Yang Mimi's face was now clean and fair, her eyebrows and eyes were pretty, and she was wearing a red tight suit, looking like a real beauty. Why is it you? There was a flash of surprise in Wang Daniu's eyes. These two people really were destined to be together. Chapter 5. I agree to this marriage. Yang Mimi was also stunned, and nodded slightly. I didn't expect to meet again so soon. The matchmaker standing by was delighted and nodded secretly, thinking that this deal was likely to work out. You two really look like a couple. Have you known each other for a long time? You are old acquaintances, so there is no need for me to introduce you further. Yang Mimi recalled the time when they took off their clothes and hugged each other in the mountains. Her cheeks turned slightly red and she showed a shy expression. Aunt Wang, speaking of which, Brother Daniu is my savior. In fact, we just met today. On my way to Dahua village, I was surrounded by a group of hooligans. Fortunately, he showed up in time to save me, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. A hero saves a beauty. Great. This is really the fate accumulated from the previous life. The matchmaker clapped her hands, trying to strike while the iron was hot to make a good thing happen. Come, hold hands, we are destined to be together. The matchmaker took the hands of the two people and put them together. Wang Daniu felt very comfortable as he felt the delicate and smooth touch on his fingertips. It would be quite addictive if he kept holding it. After shaking hands again, Yang Mimi felt safe. Having a man to rely on is really better than suffering alone. Brother Daniu, I don't know how to thank you for your kindness. Yang Mimi's eyes were full of affection as she looked at Wang Daniu lovingly. Sister Yang, it's just a small favor, don't take it to heart. I, Wang Daniu, will beat up any gangster like that whenever I see one. Wang Daniu said this righteously, but he was worried in his heart. He clearly heard a few ruffians in the back mountain say that she was a widow, so why was she still going on a blind date? Oh, what a hero saving a beautiful girl. Our eldest Mimi is a well-known beauty. In one word, she is beautiful. Even though she is a widow, she is the sweet in the eyes of countless men. The matchmaker seemed to sense Wang Daniu's doubts and started to persuade him with her sweet talk. Wang Daniu took another peek at Yang Mimi. Indeed, she looked like a very tender peach, especially her figure, which made people's hearts beat fast. It would be nice to hold this beauty in bed and have sex with her 7 times a night. You are so beautiful, why do you only want to go on a blind date with me? The flame in Wang Daniu's heart was burning. Brother Daniu, if you are interested, then you are the couple in your family. There are so many people waiting. Don't miss this opportunity. The matchmaker also planned to brag about Yang Mimi's good points. Yang Mimi interrupted her and said very sincerely, it's true that I'm a widow. I don't want a chastity arch. I want to find a man and live an ordinary life with him. Is there anything wrong with that? Wang Daniu's heart trembled suddenly. This situation was exactly the same as what happened between him and his sister-in-law. Love between men and women is just a normal human nature, but it is criticized by others. It is so unfair. Are you a widow too? Wang Taigun, who was happy just now, suddenly felt unhappy and looked Yang Mimi up and down. The matchmaker wanted to speak again, but was interrupted by Yang Mimi. Aunt, let me speak myself. The matchmaker looked embarrassed, as if she had done something wrong, and her eyes rolled around. Grandpa, Brother Daniu, let me be frank. I have dated 3 men but none of them lasted long enough. What? You killed 3 men? Wang Tigun's eyes were about to pop out. Yang Mimi nodded and mustered up her courage. The fortune teller said that I have a very bad fate, so I killed 3 men in a row. Among them, only Wang Daniu can suppress my fate of killing my husband. So. Oh my little ancestor, your words are like a thunderbolt. Do you still want to get married? People only say nice things when they go on blind dates. Yang Mimi is going to ruin her job. Matchmaker Wang is so anxious that she is running around like an ant on a stove. Wang Taigun sat dejectedly on the chair and glared at Wang the matchmaker angrily. This won't work. Aren't you trying to bully us? Hey, Mr. Wang, please listen to me and tell me about this slowly. Matchmaker Wang wanted to explain, but Yang Mimi took a deep breath and tears welled up in her eyes. She raised her voice and said, "No need to explain. Brother Daniu saved my life. I won't force it. It's all our fault. I'm leaving now." Wang Daniu's heart was filled with shock and chaos. This was exactly the same as what had just happened when his grandfather threatened to kill himself and break up the couple. She compromised for her grandfather, and he admired Yang Mimi's attitude very much. The two people felt sorry for each other, and their hearts became closer in an instant. Wang Daniu thought to himself that there was no hope for him and his sister-in-law Jiang Yinhua anyway, and with his grandfather interfering, it could only be done secretly at best, which was boring. Rather than letting three people suffer, it is better to cut the Gordian knot. Since I can't give my sister-in-law happiness, I might as well save this poor woman. If I can't be with the woman I love, then I'll be killed by her. Besides, his experience with Yang Mimi seemed destined. This woman was chaste and reasonable. It was easy to get along with her after getting to know her. After careful consideration, this was a good choice. At this time, Grandpa Wang Taigun waved his hand and said, "Go away, go away. This is our baby's first marriage." He won't agree. Matchmaker Wang knew that there was no hope, so she turned hostile and sneered, "Poor fellow, you still want to find a virgin girl, you are really like a toad wanting to eat swan meat." Then he turned around and looked at Yang Mimi, furious. "You are such a jinx, why don't you leave now? You are destroying my reputation." "Wait." Just as the two were about to go out, Wang Daniu stepped forward and stretched out his hand to block their way. The matchmaker was shocked, thinking that Wang Daniu was looking for trouble, and said angrily, "Brother Daniu, this matter has nothing to do with me. It was this bitch who deceived me. I didn't know." Wang Daniu grinned and said, "I agree to this marriage. Let's arrange it quickly." When these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. Not only did Yang Mimi stop crying, but even her grandfather was stunned. He had never expected that this brat would suddenly agree to it, even though he had just threatened to kill himself for Jiang Yinhua. The first person to react was Matchmaker Wang, whose wrinkles on her face were all smiles. "Did I hear you right? Brother, you are really a talent. I say, I agree to this marriage, the sooner the better." Wang Daniu said loudly and decisively. "Okay, I'll go back and make arrangements right away. I'll leave your good fortune to you, big brother." Matchmaker Wang pulled Yang Mimi out with a beaming look on her face, instantly revealing a smile. "Wait." Wang Daniu's loud shout startled Matchmaker Wang. "Brother, what else do you want?" Seeing Wang Daniu coming towards him with a dark face, he couldn't help but feel a little scared, not knowing where he had offended him. "Matchmaker Wang, listen carefully. From now on, she is my wife. If I hear anyone call her a jinx or a bitch again, don't blame me for being rude." Chapter 6 Yang Mimi from the dance troupe. Happiness comes too suddenly, like a coaster. Yang Mimi's heart suddenly felt warm, and the tears in her eyes could no longer be held back and burst out instantly. Matchmaker Wang nodded awkwardly and pulled Yang Mimi. "Little ancestor, stop crying. This is unlucky. Let's go first." "Wait." Wang Taigun, who was standing by, couldn't help himself and slammed the table and stood up. "I'm the boss of this family. This marriage won't count without my approval." Being stopped by his grandfather again, Wang Daniu's pent-up anger suddenly erupted. "Grandpa, what do you want to do? You don't let me marry a sister-in-law, and you don't let me get married. How can I continue the Wang family's lineage?" Wang Daniu roared. His grandson had never spoken to him like this before, and Wang Taigun jumped up instantly. "Have you lost your mind? Don't you know what kind of woman she is? Do you want to die? Do you want to continue the family line? I'm afraid I'll have no descendants. This is not okay, and that is not okay. Do you think I can marry a fairy? You are just old-fashioned. I have decided on this marriage." Wang Daniu snorted coldly and refused to give in. "Ahem." Wang Taigun sighed. His grandson was as stubborn as himself. If he got stubborn, even 8 oxen couldn't pull him back. "Daniu, to tell you the truth, the reason I don't let you marry her is not just because of feudal superstition. I know the fortune teller she mentioned. He is nicknamed Zhang Banxian and is a famous fortune teller in this town." Wang Taigun had to explain patiently. "His divination is always accurate. If he says that your destiny can suppress the woman who brings bad luck to her husband, then it will definitely work. Then why don't you agree?" Wang Daniu asked puzzledly. I. Grandpa was a little speechless, looking sad and as if he had aged a lot. Grandpa is not capable enough to let a young man like you marry a widow of 4 souls. I feel sorry for you. Wang Taigun spoke his true feelings, and Wang Daniu felt ashamed instantly, because it turned out that his grandfather had always been doing this for his own good. Grandpa, I was rude just now, don't take it personally, but I agreed to this marriage, and I'm not afraid of what others may say. Wang Daniu said as he handed his grandfather a cup of tea. The old man took a sip and his emotions slowly calmed down. Seeing that Wang Daniu was so determined, he didn't dare to force it. Matchmaker Wang was very good at dealing with people. She saw hope immediately and hurried forward to persuade them. Grandpa, in fact, your family will definitely not suffer any loss in this marriage. I have brought the people here. Look at their appearance and figures. They are all top-notch candidates. Who in the surrounding area can compare with Da Mimi? Wang Taigun followed the matchmaker's instructions and saw that it was true. Yang Mimi must have been a beautiful girl that everyone loved when she was young. Let me tell you, Mimi is a member of our town's song and dance troupe. She's a star, and her family is very rich. Matchmaker Wang bit Mr. Wang's ear and whispered, your Wang family has found a treasure. You have gained both money and people. When Wang Daniu heard that Yang Mimi was from the song and dance troupe, he couldn't help but feel moved again. Is it possible for ordinary people to perform on stage? One must be 1 in a million in terms of figure and appearance. When watching performances in the past, the women standing on the stage always made these young men excited and restless. I actually have a chance to marry a celebrity. No wonder this girl has such a sexy figure, it makes people feel itchy just by looking at her. At this moment, Wang Daniu suddenly understood, and the more he looked at Yang Mimi, the more beautiful she became. Seeing Wang Daniu's greedy eyes, Yang Mimi lowered her head shyly and pulled the matchmaker's clothes. Over there, matchmaker Wang also calmed the old man down, and the matter had a preliminary plan. Matchmaker Wang and Yang Mimi said goodbye and left. After a night and half a day of hard work, the dark clouds that had previously hung over the grandfather and grandson's heads gradually dissipated. In the evening, sister-in-law Jiang Yinhua came back and saw the two of them and whispered, Grandpa, Daniu, I'll go cook for you. Jiang Yinhua, the woman he loved but could not have, made Wang Daniu feel very sad when he saw her. He was afraid that this decision today would hurt his sister-in-law's heart. But a short pain is worse than a long one. Wang Daniu thought about it, suppressed his inner turmoil and said, Sister-in-law, the matchmaker came to arrange a blind date for me today. I am going to get married. Jiang Yinhua trembled all over, as if struck by thunder, and the grievance in her heart overwhelmed her will. But this kind of uncle-sister-in-law love cannot stand the light of the world. Jiang Yinhua suppressed his inner grief and anger and forced a smile. Then congratulations, sister-in-law. You are already 22 years old, it's time for you to get married. Although he was saying congratulations, a feeling of grief and anger filled the air. Wang Taigun tactfully went into the inner room and closed the door, leaving the space for the two of them. Jiang Yinhua rolled the corner of his clothes with his fingers, rolling it up and putting it down and rolling it up again. Which girl is this? Why did Daniu take a fancy to her? I will help you arrange your marriage. The next moment, Wang Daniu couldn't bear it anymore. He stepped forward, stretched out his strong arms, and hugged Jiang Yinhua tightly in his arms. A raging fire was burning inside Wang Daniu's body, and his kisses fell like raindrops on Jiang Yinhua's face and lips. He wished he could put this beloved woman into his body. Sister-in-law, the person I like is you, and I will never forget you even after getting married. Wang Daniu kissed her hard, venting his anger, as if he was taking revenge on the prejudice of the entire world. Wang Daniu was breathing heavily and his eyes were blurry. Sister-in-law, I only have you in my heart. You are the most important woman to me. I am about to get married. Can you give me a chance? Wang Daniu's movements became increasingly violent. He threw Jiang Yinhua onto the bed and began tearing off her clothes with his hands. No, don't. Jiang Yinhua said no, but her body responded involuntarily. I want it, sister-in-law, please leave me a thought, so that I can remember you for the rest of my life. Both of them were very excited, but Jiang Yinhua knew that it was impossible for the two of them to be together. Hearing these words, Jiang Yinhua felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife and felt extremely bitter. God, why are you torturing me? Jiang Yinhua screamed, venting his inner dissatisfaction. At this time, Wang Daniu was deeply in love and could no longer think about so much, and he and his sister-in-law were tightly entangled. Thunder and heavy rain came rushing in, and Jiang Yinhua realized at this moment that she had actually fallen in love with this simple brother-in-law. Her mind emerged with the scene of the two of them playing in the river, the scene of her mending clothes for Wang Daniu, and the scene of her feeding him in the fields. She also wanted to devote herself to a man like Wang Daniu, but the words this man just said shattered all her dreams. He, Wang Daniu, would not be her man, but only her brother-in-law. In an instant, Jiang Yinhua opened her eyes from her confusion, pushed Wang Daniu away, ran back to their house like a wounded little rabbit, and started crying quietly. Chapter 7: The Poisonous Woman. After all, there was no hope for his relationship with his sister-in-law. The next day, Wang Daniu got up early and went straight to the store at the entrance of the village. After all, getting married is a big event, so Wang Daniu wants to purchase some wine and drinks for the wedding, and also buy some latte art to decorate the room. Xinghua village is located in a remote area, and the only store in the village has a particularly complete range of items, and the villagers depend on it for their lives. The convenience store is run by an old man named Liu Degui. He is honest and cowardly, but he has a brother who is the village chief, so no one bullies him. Wang Daniu walked to the store, but found that there was no one inside. He was about to call the boss out when he heard a woman's intermittent crying from the inner room. "Dad, I heard that brother Daniu is getting married. You should go to his house and ask for marriage as soon as possible." Hearing someone calling his name, Wang Daniu stopped and listened. "Isn't he this Liu Cixi?" It turns out that she has always had a crush on him, but Wang Daniu never thought much about it. Liu Degui's daughter Liu Cixi is about the same age as Wang Daniu. They have been classmates from elementary school to junior high school, and can be said to be childhood sweethearts. How could you like that fool? I advise you to give up this idea. His family is poor, and you will just starve if you marry him. Liu Degui scolded. I just like brother Daniu. If I can't be his bride, I might as well die. Liu Cixi's attitude was very firm. My daughter, listen to the advice and eat your fill. Wang Daniu's family is poor and he is a simple-minded person. It seems that he will never be able to turn his life around. Don't even think about it. Liu Cixi and his father almost got into a fight, but a fashionably dressed woman nearby was watching the scene while eating melon seeds. The woman's name was Jiang Yuting, and she was Liu Degui's second wife. As her name suggested, she was very pretty and her cheongsam was so short that it couldn't cover her snow-white thighs. Our Cixi has really good taste. All the men in Daohua village are dead, so she chose to marry a poor guy. Jiang Yuting, who liked to watch the fun, twisted her neck and laughed, which was like adding fuel to the fire. Wang Daniu happened to hear the conversation between the three people and was immediately angry at Liu Degui and his wife, especially his stepmother Jiang Yuting, who looked down on him so much. Wang Daniu clenched his fists and swore in his heart, "You are such a poisonous woman, sooner or later I will let you know how powerful I am." In the room, Liu Cixi couldn't stand the sarcasm from the other two people, so she ran upstairs. Jiang Yuting then twisted her neck, shook off the melon seed shells on her hands, snorted coldly, turned around, lifted the door curtain and walked outside. She looked up and saw Wang Daniu standing in the store. She glanced at him coldly and said in a sarcastic tone, "Daniu, I really want to congratulate you on marrying a new wife, but I heard that the bride is a second-hand product used by someone else. TSK, your family is so poor, I guess the only thing you can do is develop the sharing economy, hee hee." Jiang Yuting covered her mouth and laughed sarcastically. Wang Daniu had been holding a grudge for a long time, but he didn't expect Jiang Yuting to dare to provoke him. "Sister-in-law, you look like a fallen girl with delicate skin. Don't you know that you have never been slept with before you got married? Don't think that just because you found Liu Degui to take over, no one will know about your scandal." Wang Daniu glanced at him coldly, "Who gave you the courage to act coquettishly here?" Jiang Yuting was speechless for a moment after failing to gain anything. "We don't want to do business with you, poor bastard, get out of here. Ghost, you little bastard, how dare you slander me? Get lost, we don't want to do business with you." Jiang Yuting started cursing and pushed Wang Daniu to drive him out. "Let's go, there's a foul smell here." Wang Daniu didn't bother to say any more to her. He refused to sell anything and turned away angrily. After walking out of the store, Wang Daniu turned a corner and got rid of the shrew. He heard Liu Cici's voice. Brother Daniu, wait a minute. Cici? Why are you here? It turned out that Liu Cici heard the noise below and quietly ran out, waiting for him here. Seeing his sweetheart Liu Cici running up to him, she hugged Wang Daniu and started crying in his arms like a wounded kitten. Brother Daniu, why would you rather marry a black widow than me? Am I ugly? I want to be your wife, and I want to bear your baby. Liu Cici asked a series of questions, her tone full of grievance. Wang Daniu suddenly felt uneasy and looked down at Liu Cici. This person was not only his childhood sweetheart, but also the school belle. How could she be ugly? Wang Daniu had an impulse to be intimate with her. But he finally didn't hold her in his arms, but sighed and touched her black hair. Cici, it's not that I look down on you. Your father, he is right. Our family is poor. Wouldn't it be harmful to you if you marry me? Hearing this reason, Liu Cici's eyes lit up and she actually felt a little secretly happy in her heart. Now Liu Cici hugged Wang Daniu closer. Feeling the friction and heat on her chest, Wang Daniu couldn't help feeling a little dry in the mouth. I don't care. If my parents don't like you, that's their business. I want to be your bride. My heart loves you. I won't marry anyone else except you. After hearing Liu Cici's confession, Wang Daniu's self-confidence was greatly satisfied, and the wound of being rejected when proposing to his sister-in-law was healed. Wang Daniu looked down at the girl Liu Cici, who was as cute as a girl with animal ears. The childhood sweetheart has now grown into a handsome and well-proportioned man, and has started to develop both front and back. Seeing it so clearly, Wang Daniu's male instinct was aroused and he could hardly control himself. Just at this moment, Liu Cici deliberately straightened her body and knocked Wang Daniu off his feet. Brother Daniu, do you think I'm pretty? The elastic feeling immediately spread throughout Wang Daniu's body along his sensitive nerves, and he nodded happily in his heart. Cici, you are so beautiful. Liu Cici got a positive answer, her cheeks slightly reddened, and she punched Daniu's strong chest a few times with her little fists. You are so mean. Since I am beautiful, why am I not the bride? After flirting for a while, Liu Cici whispered, Brother Daniu, I have something to tell you in private, but it's not convenient on the main road. Whisper? It was clearly a teasing to Wang Daniu. Wang Daniu is honest, but not a fool. If he doesn't do something, is he still a man? Moreover, the evil fire that he had been holding back towards his sister-in-law yesterday had not been released yet, and now he was on the verge of a fight. I looked up and around, and saw a small forest, which was densely populated and a perfect place for romance. Cici, I want to hear your true feelings, too. Why don't we go over there? Wang Daniu pointed to the grove. Liu Cici understood what he meant, feeling a little nervous and excited, and nodded obediently. Wang Daniu was overjoyed. He took Liu Cici's little hand and the two of them quickly walked into the grove. Chapter 8, The Grove. The two came to the grove, and Wang Daniu's confused mind suddenly became clear. I'm getting married soon. If something really happens, wouldn't that ruin Liu Cici? Besides, a man should stick to his word. He has already promised Yang Mimi that he will marry her, so he has to give up halfway. That would be another betrayal of a woman. Wang Daniu, you are really a piece of shit, he blamed himself in his heart. After thinking for a moment, Wang Daniu spoke sincerely. Cici, it's all my fault that I don't have the ability to make a lot of money, which is why your family looks down on me. We grew up together and have been together for 9 years. It's impossible for me to say that you are not in my heart. I'm going to get married soon. It's already been decided. We are not destined to be together. From now on, I will treat you as my sister. Seeing Wang Daniu suddenly change his mind, Liu Cici collapsed instantly. I don't want to be your sister. Even if I can't be your wife, I will be your lover. Liu Cici showed a stubborn expression on her face. She unbuttoned her collar and was about to take off her shirt. Seeing that the woman's most critical part was about to pop out, Wang Daniu quickly grabbed her hands and stopped her movement. Cici, you're crazy. Don't you know how important a girl's chastity is? Liu Cici's tears rolled down her cheeks and fell to the ground. Brother Daniu, do you know that my uncle Liu Defu has arranged a marriage for me? They are planning to marry me to the new college-educated village party secretary from the next village, and we will never see each other again. Wang Daniu advised, it's a good thing that you have climbed up the ladder. Good news. Liu Cix's eyes widened with resentment. You are the only one I like. Brother Daniu, please fulfill my wish and I will not bother you anymore. Whatever wish you have, I will never refuse it as long as I can fulfill it. Wang Daniu nodded. Liu Cixi smiled and fiddled with the buttons on her chest with her fingers, then unbuttoned them with a bang. The most charming part of a woman appeared in front of Wang Daniu. What are you doing? Wang Daniu almost dropped his jaw in shock, staring at the high energy in front of him in a daze. I only want to give my first time to the man I love the most. This is my wish. Can you fulfill this wish for me? Anyway, it was very secluded in the grove, so Liu Cixi didn't care at all about exposing herself and went straight to Wang Daniu. She stretched out her tender little white hand, reached out to Wang Daniu's waist and began to untie his belt. The intense visual impact made Wang Daniu's blood boil. I never expected that my childhood sweetheart was so hungry. Could it be that my masculine charm was too strong? Wang Daniu felt inexplicably excited. He certainly would not reject what was going to happen next. On the contrary, he felt a little eager for it. Liu Cixi acted quickly, and before Wang Daniu was distracted, her jeans had been pulled down to her buttocks. This matter cannot be let go like this. Wang Daniu reached out and grabbed Liu Cixi's fair shoulders. Brother Daniu, satisfy me. Liu Cixi closed her eyes and licked her lips continuously. Fuck her. Just do it. Wang Daniu spat, hurriedly tore off his coat and trousers that were in the way, and was ready for a hearty and fierce battle. Just when the battle was about to break out, suddenly, a woman's scream was heard. Well, I finally caught you two dogs. The two were so frightened that they quickly pulled up their pants, turned around and found Jiang Yuting standing about 10 meters away from them. Cixi, you usually pretend to be so innocent, but it turns out you are full of thieves and whores. You have brought shame to the Liu family. After scolding Liu Cixi, Jiang Yuting pinched her waist and turned to look at Wang Daniu. I had just been criticized by Wang Daniu and was feeling very angry, but I didn't expect to discover their affair. I must not let Wang Daniu off easily this time, otherwise he will think that I, Jiang Yuting, am a vegetarian. Wang Daniu, you look very honest, but you are actually a scumbag. You dare to do such a thing as rape. This is going to be a crime. No. Auntie, you misunderstood. Wang Daniu said stutteringly. Jiang Yuting seemed to have something on Wang Daniu and had no intention of letting him go. Misunderstanding, you tricked me, Cixi, into this remote place, and you dare say you didn't plan to do anything. Aunt, there's really nothing going on between us. We haven't done anything yet, and yet you're here. Wang Daniu was so anxious that his face turned red. Jiang Yuting waved her hand impatiently. I won't waste my time talking to you. I'm calling the police right now. If you have anything to say, go to the police station and tell them. Hearing this, Liu Cixi quickly stepped forward and opened her arms to protect Wang Daniu behind her. That's not the case. It was me, I took the initiative. I like Brother Daniu. Par, you two are really open-minded, using the sky as a blanket and the ground as a bed. To tell you the truth, your father is nearby. I will call him and he will come right over. Let him see that his good daughter was ruined by a wild man. Should he be thrown into the pig cage? As Jiang Yuting said this, she was about to scream. She was determined to kill Wang Daniu. Wang Daniu was furious. He rolled his eyes and came up with an idea. He stepped forward and hit Jiang Yuting hard on the neck. Before Jiang Yuting could even shout out, her body went limp like noodles. Brother Daniu, did you beat her to death? She's not dead, she's fainted. She just yelled, go stop your father, I'll find a way to make this witch shut up. This was the only way for now. Liu Cixi nodded in agreement, buttoned up his clothes, tidied himself up, and ran towards his father. Wang Daniu bent down, carried Jiang Yuting on his back and found a secluded place to hide, and soon he disappeared. Dad, why are you here? Liu Cixi pretended to be confused and stopped Liu Degui. Liu Degui looked at his daughter and said, it's you. Did you hear your stepmother's cry just now? Little mother. Liu Cixi tried to remain calm. I came out to relax. Why is little mother here? Hey. We're worried about you, come out and look for you. Oh, I'm fine. Let's go home. My little mother may have just returned to the village from over there. Really? Liu Degui looked around, but there were only dense woods and he couldn't see anything, so he had to give up. Let's go home first. Liu Cixi pushed his father and walked in the opposite direction. Liu Degui hurriedly left the grove with his daughters half pushing. Wang Daniu, who was hiding in the dark, saw this scene and let out a long sigh. He released his hand that was covering Jiang Yuting's mouth and wiped the cold sweat off his face. At this time, Jiang Yuting came to her senses slowly, opened her eyes and found that she had been kidnapped by Wang Daniu. What do you want to do? The scene before she fainted appeared in her mind, and Jiang Yuting suddenly became nervous. She broke free from Wang Daniu's arms and glared at him fiercely. Chapter 9, Aunt, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for not keeping your mouth shut. Just now, Wang Daniu had put in a lot of effort to control this woman, and he was already feeling hot all over because of her. Now seeing Jiang Yuting's coquettish look, he suddenly had a way to make this woman shut up. Aunt, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for not keeping your mouth shut. Peaches nourish people, apricots hurt people, and people are buried under plum trees. I'm going to kill you right here, and then dig a hole and bury you. See if you dare to say anything bad about me again. Wang Daniu acted like a ferocious monster. After seeing this change of expression, Jiang Yuting looked around vigilantly, but there was no sign of anyone, which scared her. Daniu, I was just joking with you. I won't say anything. Jiang Yuting gave in and her attitude changed 180 degrees. But Wang Daniu was worried. If he didn't completely subdue this woman today, there would be endless troubles. Thinking of this, Wang Daniu sneered, really? Don't you want to kill me? If you want to call the police, then call them and let them collect your body. Jiang Yuting shuddered violently, a chill ran down her feet, and she fell to her knees with a thud. Daniu, you must trust your aunt. I promise I didn't see anything and I won't say anything. Believe you? Did you believe me when I explained it to you? Don't you look down on me, a poor rapist, from the bottom of your heart. Wang Daniu walked up to her from above and slowly extended 2 fingers. He thought of a way. In the divine dragon skill, given to him by his fairy wife, there was a little trick called sunflower acupoint pressing hand, which could press some unknown mysterious acupoints. One of them is called the itch point, which can make people feel extremely itchy all over, as if being bitten by hundreds of insects, comparable to the torture of Linkai. Letting Jiang Yuting suffer a little will surely make her remember her lesson. Jiang Yuting thought that Wang Daniu really wanted to kill her to silence her, and she was about to scream in fear. Wang Daniu quickly pointed 2 fingers at Jiang Yuting's itchy spot. Har 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 har. In an instant, Jiang Yuting laughed so hard that her waist shook and the flesh all over her body jumped uncontrollably. Jiang Yuting laughed so hard that she almost cried. It was a feeling worse than death. Cluck, cluck, Daniu, hee hee. Daniu, I really can't say anything, please forgive me. Hee hee. Da. Unable to catch her breath, Jiang Yuting rolled her eyes and fell on her back. Wang Daniu watched her make a fool of herself, but he was neither anxious nor slow, and had no intention of letting her go easily. It's just begun and I can't stand it anymore. Wang Daniu rubbed his hands maliciously and grabbed her feet. You know, there is a funny point on the sole of the foot, and Wang Daniu is ready to add fuel to the fire. After taking off her shoes, Wang Daniu found that Jiang Yuting was only wearing a pair of black stockings. The slit of the cheongsam goes all the way to the thigh, revealing almost everything inside. What a show-off! Jiang Yuting also felt Wang Daniu's vicious gaze, her face flushed with shame, and she struggled hard with her legs, trying to break free from Wang Daniu's grasp. But she was just a woman, and her jade feet didn't hurt Wang Daniu at all when they kicked him. Instead, they awakened the little flame in Daniu's heart that had just been extinguished. The instinct of men is gradually rising up and setting up a small tent. How come it is so big? Jiang Yuting saw it. Ever since she married Liu Degui, who was 7 years older than her, their married life had always been lacking in quality, often ending before it even began. She couldn't take her eyes off the comparison between the two. Jiang Yuting stared at it for a while, and some charming thoughts arose in her mind. Da Nyo is a real banker, about 22 or 23 years old, and as strong as a calf. It would be a great satisfaction if I could have sex with him once. Slowly, Jiang Yuting's jade feet stopped struggling, and she gently lifted up her cheongsam, wanting Wang Daniu to see more. Wang Daniu started tickling the soles of her big feet again. Jiang Yuting rolled around in itchiness, and her long legs began to flutter around again. Wang Daniu originally intended to tickle Jiang Yuting to death, but now he was aroused by the black stockings and started to touch her little feet. Brother Daniu, if you can let me go, I, Aunt Jiang, will do whatever you say. Jiang Yuting's charming voice came. Wang Daniu had not yet completed the last blow, so how could he withstand the teasing of the experienced Jiang Yuting? His blood suddenly boiled. Jiang Yuting was clearly trying to seduce him, but Wang Daniu forced himself to calm down. Aunt Jiang, you are already middle-aged. I am not interested in you. Today I will make sure you remember this lesson. Wang Daniu said coldly. Jiang Yuting couldn't help but look at Wang Daniu differently. There was no man who could remain unmoved in front of her. Brother Daniu, old women have their own advantages. You will know once you have tasted them. Take Cece's girl for example. She has an undeveloped chest. She is nothing like your aunt who can give you a different feeling. As she spoke, Jiang Yuting gently took off her black stockings, completely exposing her snow-white feet. Jiang Yuting's feet are well maintained, smooth and delicate, and glow like milk. Jiang Yuting waved her jade feet in front of Wang Daniu's eyes and said, "Don't you want me to keep it a secret? Then let me learn this lesson. Do you think I don't dare?" Wang Daniu pressed her under him in an instant, his heart beating wildly. Wang Daniu was young and full of energy. He urgently needed to find an outlet to vent his emotions and was a little excited. This simple and direct action completely confused Jiang Yuting's heart, and she looked at Wang Daniu with affection. "Why aren't you moving? Do you still need your aunt to teach you?" Jiang Yuting blew a breath on Wang Daniu's face, with a shy look of a girl. Wang Daniu's mind was working at high speed at this moment. If I really had sex with this beautiful woman, maybe I could make her shut up. Besides, I haven't delivered my first time yet and I'm always interrupted. I'm almost suffocating myself. Anyway, I want to get a sister-in-law in this life, so it doesn't matter who I have my first time with. At this time, Jiang Yuting under him could no longer hold on and began to actively seduce him, locking Wang Daniu's hips with her cold and silky legs. "Daniu, come quickly and satisfy your sister-in-law once. Your sister-in-law will definitely remember your words. Lying is the fault of a puppy." Jiang Yuting panted heavily and kissed Wang Daniu on the mouth. "It looks like your little brother is unwilling to come out. If he doesn't come out, he's going to make a hole in his pants." I have to say that Jiang Yuting is very good at teasing. Every move and every word she makes Wang Daniu feel comfortable. For myself and Cece, this is the only thing I can do now. Wang Daniu comforted himself in his heart, and with that thought he completely let go. The two of them twisted into a knot and rolled around in the woods like a ball. Clothes were scattered all over the ground, and an unspeakable sound came from the silent forest. Chapter 10 Grasshopper on a Rope. Jiang Yuting's technique in seducing people is obviously much better than Liu Cece's. Her measurements were amazing, with an F-cup and a deep cleavage, and every part of her chest just met Wang Daniu's needs. Jiang Yuting, it's so moist, just like his favorite pork knuckle soup, so flavorful. Jiang Yuting was enjoying it very much, and her moans sounded very sweet, which made Wang Daniu feel numb inside, and the feeling of pleasure increased 100-fold. Wang Daniu enjoyed wave after wave of happiness. Anyway, with an experienced driver leading the way, it was a pleasure to drive. With a whimper, the 100-meter sprint was followed by a volcanic eruption, and Wang Daniu felt as comfortable as an emperor. Both of them reached the peak of happiness at the same time, their bodies softened at the same time, and they lay on their backs on the ground exhausted. Wang Daniu felt more satisfied than ever before, and he felt that this deal was not too bad. On the other side, Jiang Yuting was also exhausted, because Wang Daniu had the divine dragon skill, which made his ability in this area even more powerful. It not only filled Jiang Yuting's emptiness, but also made her feel ecstatic. Having met countless people, Wang Daniu can be considered to be one of the best among thousands. I, your aunt, have lived for half of my life. It is worth it to have sex with you. Jiang Yuting's cheeks were rosy. She turned around and lay on Wang Daniu's belly with her beautiful eyes flashing. I didn't expect you to work so hard. Even if those old cows died of exhaustion, they couldn't plow the land as well as you did. From now on, I am yours. Jiang Yuting is completely devoted to her, but Wang Daniu doesn't have much love for her and he just wants her to shut up. Then, he had a little plan. He had some ideas about the marriage that Liu Cixi mentioned. Firstly, Liu Cixi was unwilling, and secondly, Liu Cixi was his childhood sweetheart, and even if he didn't do it, he didn't want to let others get it. Aunt, I heard that your family has arranged a marriage for Cixi. The other party is the party secretary of the neighboring village. How is that person? Is he reliable? Wang Daniu asked. Wang Daniu was planning to use Jiang Yuting to do something. Jiang Yuting smiled and said, "You little rascal, I know you want to ruin this marriage. But this is not easy to do. If you wanted to marry Liu Cixi before, I could still persuade you, but now, this marriage is led by Liu Degui's younger brother Liu Defu." At this point, Wang Daniu understood that Liu Defu was simply a puppet, an honest man and a coward. His younger brother Liu Defu is the village chief of Daohua village. This marriage is a bit like a political marriage. Liu Defu has no ability to intervene, and Jiang Yuting has no say in it. We can't just watch the good cabbages being eaten by pigs. Wang Daniu said hatefully. Daniu, I think you should stop worrying about this. You're getting married soon. Listen to me and don't meddle in other people's business. Liu Defu is not someone you can afford to offend. Don't worry about him and ruin your own life. Jiang Yuting comforted him. This was harsh but reasonable. Wang Daniu nodded and temporarily suppressed the thoughts in his mind. Okay, it's getting late. Wang Daniu patted the dirt off his body and stood up. Cixi can't stop his father for long. If you stay any longer, you'll have more trouble. You should go back quickly. If you dare to leak any information, I will tell Liu Degui about our relationship. Wang Daniu was a little worried and warned him again. Standing behind Liu Degui was the village chief Liu Defu, and Jiang Yuting naturally knew the importance of the relationship. Come on, we know what's going on. We are in the same boat. Jiang Yuting also put on her clothes, and the two of them kept a distance from each other and went home. When Wang Daniu returned home after a walk in the woods, it was already dark and an oil lamp was lit in his sister-in-law's room. There are frequent power outages in the village, so each family has to bring their own kerosene lamp. Yesterday I wanted to give my first time to my sister-in-law, but she rejected me. Wang Daniu felt a little guilty and unwilling. He didn't believe that his sister-in-law didn't have him in her heart. Wang Daniu hesitated for a moment, then tiptoed to the crack of the door to see if his sister-in-law was asleep. Through the crack in the door, Wang Daniu saw his sister-in-law lying on the bed, but he didn't see the plate of prickly green cucumbers on the table. Ever since Wang Daniu's brother passed away, Jiang Yinhua has lost the nourishment of a man. Her sexual needs become stronger at night. Tonight, she specially picked fresh cucumbers, otherwise the loneliness would be really unbearable. On the bed, Jiang Yinhua lay in the quilt and began to comfort herself. Her face was flushed and she was very excited. She didn't notice that there was an eye staring at her through the crack in the door. Although she and Wang Daniu have been in love over the years, they have always been very well behaved. It is the rule not to enter a widow's house at night, so Jiang Yinhua was relieved. What's more, Wang Daniu was about to marry his bride, which made her even more discouraged. Wang Daniu saw Jiang Yinhua's strange movements through the crack in the door and thought, what is sister-in-law doing? Is she sick? Not only her legs, but also Jiang Yinhua's hands entered the quilt. The movements in the quilt became more and more vigorous, accompanied by ecstatic hums. The light from the kerosene lamp was rather dim, and Wang Daniu could only see vaguely. He still didn't quite understand what his sister-in-law was doing. Jiang Yinhua's expression became more and more ecstatic, and her voice became higher and higher. Wang Daniu also noticed that this was somewhat similar to Jiang Yuting's in the woods. At this time, he finally noticed the cucumber on the bedside. Jiang Yinhua took one and stuffed it into the quilt, and then he showed that ecstatic expression. My sister-in-law would rather find a cucumber than be with me, but I would rather become the cucumber in her hand and be inseparable from her. After changing the juicy cucumbers one after another, Jiang Yinhua finally felt comfortable. Aha! Jiang Yinhua leaned back and lay exhausted on the bed, gasping for breath. Seeing his sister-in-law so happy, Wang Daniu's heart also came alive, and he wanted to look in through the crack of the door. At this time, Wang Daniu didn't pay any attention to the west wind behind him. Another kerosene lamp was lit, and Grandpa Wang Taigun walked over here with a cane, came behind Wang Daniu, and patted him on the shoulder gently. Go away, stop making trouble, this is a critical moment. Wang Daniu pushed the hand on his shoulder away nonchalantly and continued to immerse himself in the excitement of peeping. On the bed, Jiang Yinhua's body shuddered several times. Daniu, Daniu. Jiang Yinhua actually called out Wang Daniu's name, and she imagined what Wang Daniu looked like in her mind. Unfortunately, Wang Daniu didn't hear the last part of the sentence, because he was hit hard on the back with a stick, and it hurt so much. You bastard, you just won't change your bad habits. I'll teach you a lesson if I let you peek. Wang Tigun's crutch hit Wang Daniu's back again and again, leaving a trail of blood marks. Wang Daniu didn't bother to continue peeping and just jumped up and screamed. Grandpa, please stop hitting me. I did something wrong and you only know how to hit me. Chapter 11, Good Days, Good for Marriage. The sound of the grandfather and grandson fighting came, and Jiang Yinhua trembled with fear, and the plates beside him broke to the ground. After being scolded by Grandpa, the Wang family had a few peaceful days in the following days. Jiang Yinhua ignored Wang Daniu, as if she were a stranger, while Wang Daniu was concentrating on preparing for his wedding. That day, Yang Mimi came to Wang's house, wearing a short collar. She looked much better, and her rosy face made her look neat and tidy. Wang Taigun did not stop her and politely invited the girl into their house and treated her as a bride-to-be. Miss Yan, what are you doing here today? Wang Taigun asked after taking a puff of his pipe. Well, Grandpa, the fortune teller said today is a good day for marriage, so I want to get the marriage certificate with Brother Daniu first. Yang Mimi put on light makeup, her face was as rosy as a peach, just like a star in a movie. She looked at Wang Daniu shyly, and Wang Daniu's face was full of smiles. Everyone says that Yang Mimi is a chaste and heroic woman, but now it seems that she is just so-so. Deep down, she still wants men. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken the initiative to come to your house to get the certificate. Yang Mimi is tall and has delicate skin like a young girl. She is even prettier than her sister-in-law. Wang Daniu felt itchy in his heart and wanted to go up and touch it. You should. You're getting married soon, so you should get the certificate first. Wang Taigun nodded and said, then you two can go. This way both families can feel at ease. Oh, okay, I'll definitely get it done. Wang Daniu responded impatiently, pulling Yang Mimi's little hand and leaving the old man's sight. You've been single for so long, how do you deal with loneliness? Wang Daniu asked curiously in a low voice. Yesterday he secretly saw his sister-in-law using cucumbers to relieve her loneliness, and he was very curious about what it felt like. Daniu, what did you say? Yang Mimi blushed and glared at Wang Daniu coquettishly. She had done this many times. Wang Da smiled innocently, if you don't tell me, then I won't ask, but I will help you solve your problems in the future. Let's get the certificate first. Yang Mimi didn't expect Wang Daniu to be so lustful, she rolled her eyes and said. Okay then, let's go. The two of them stayed together for a while, and then Wang Daniu pushed out an electric tricycle, which was the most modern means of transportation in the Wang family. Our family is poor and we can't afford a car. I'm sorry to have to trouble you, said Wang Daniu. Yang Mimi didn't care and sat on it. The two of them rode the electric tricycle to the Civil Affairs Bureau in the town. Daniu, we are family from now on. Although this is our third marriage, we have to live a good life for those who gossip about us to see. Of course, I, Wang Daniu, am no longer the same Wang Daniu as before. Yang Mimi thought he was just talking. After all, Daniu was just an ordinary farmer without many options. She had already made plans for him in private. Our Yang family is also a well-known family in the neighborhood. The mayor of the town is a relative of our Yang family. When we get married, I will use the relationship of Mayor Yang to find you a job in the town. Yang Mimi was making plans for their future everywhere, and Wang Daniu was very moved and agreed with her. However, the sentence, I, Wang Daniu, am not the Wang Daniu of the past, was not just a casual remark. He already had a plan in mind. Thanks to his fairy wife, she left him a set of divine dragon skills. Wang Daniu discovered that it contained many methods of curing diseases and saving lives. Any one of them would shock the medical community, so he planned to open a clinic in Dahua village. The young couple looked forward to the future sweetly. The more they talked, the happier they became. The 30-mile mountain road didn't seem far at all. The weather in July is like a baby's face, changing in an instant. When the two men reached halfway up the mountain, the sky suddenly became overcast. The raindrops as big as beans hit Yang Mimi's pretty face. It's raining. Yang Mimi looked worried. She had just done the fortune telling without checking the weather forecast. Yes, I know there is a dilapidated temple ahead. Let's go there to take shelter from the rain. If you are hugging me, hold me tight. Wang Daniu shouted loudly and pedaled his tricycle hard to get there. But they were still a step too late. The rain poured down heavily, and by the time the two men arrived at the dilapidated temple, they were soaked through. Originally Yang Mimi was wearing a thin set of clothes, but now they were wet and stuck to her body, as transparent as a cicadar's wing. Wang Daniu turned around and saw that she was wearing a sexy tight underwear, which outlined her perfect figure. Wang Daniu felt hot all over, but he didn't expect it to be a blessing in disguise. What are you looking at? Take off your wet clothes or you'll catch a cold. Yang Mimi took off her coat naturally and wrung out the water. Okay. Wang Daniu woke up from his momentary trance and a sly smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Soon Wang Daniu took off all his wet clothes, revealing his strong body. Yang Mimi looked up and immediately saw this scene, and quickly turned her head away. Why are you so undressed? Wang Daniu smiled at her shamelessly. We are getting married soon, there are no outsiders here, what is there to be embarrassed about? I will help you take off all your clothes. He didn't want to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be honest with each other. A trace of shyness flashed across Yang Mimi's face, and she quickly dodged and said, You can take it off, I won't take off my underwear anyway. You are so stubborn. Wang Daniu continued, Look, it's transparent. If you don't take it off, can't I see it? We are going to have our wedding night soon, don't be shy. Yang Mimi was hesitating when a cold wind blew and she suddenly sneezed. Look, if you catch a cold, how can we get married? Wang Daniu took the opportunity to lobby. Turn your head away, I'll do it myself, and don't peek. Yang Mimi took off her black lace bra by herself. The perfect figure and huge breasts fully displayed the beauty of a woman, and a raging fire instantly ignited in Wang Daniu's body. Why are you still looking? Yang Mimi covered her chest with her hands and said shyly. You are my wife, I can look at you if I want. Wang Daniu chuckled, I not only want to look, I also want to touch you. You dare? Yang Mimi glared at him fiercely. From this glare, it was obvious that Wang Daniu was not afraid at all. Instead, he was even more excited. The little brother responded unconsciously. Help! Yang Mimi let out a scream, which made Wang Daniu even more excited, and an uncontrollable excitement rushed straight to his head. Now his heart was like a burning fire. With such a lamb standing before him, how could he remain indifferent? No matter what, the two of them will have to sleep together sooner or later. Man proposes, God disposes. Today is the day. Wang Daniu tore off the last piece of fig leaf and was about to get things done with Yang Mimi. Just when the passion was burning, a loud call suddenly came to my ears. Fuck, who is so blind? Chapter 12, Surrounded by beauties, treated like an emperor. Wang Daniu cursed unwillingly, but human life was at stake, so he still followed the sound. The voice came from behind the temple, and soon a middle-aged woman in gorgeous clothes appeared in front of him. This person turned out to be Wang Jiaojiao, the wife of Liu Defu, the village chief of Daohua village. At this moment, she was trapped in the mudslide, her arms grasping in the air, and a pair of emerald jade bracelets on her wrists. Legend has it that Wang Jiaojiao was a girl from a big city, very Western-styled, and when she first got married she didn't fit in with the rustic countryside. It is also because of this that Wang Jiaojiao has been domineering in the village over the years and no one dares to provoke her. Now that she is middle-aged, she is still arrogant and willful, always acting superior to others. He is always dissatisfied with everything and is always ready to fight with others. Not long ago, he had an argument with Wang Daniu and called him an orphan with no one to take care of him. Boom! With the sound of thunder, another pool of mud and rocks washed down. Her plump body sank further, and her mouth and face were covered with mud. Wang Jiaojiao is very plump, and the clothes on her chest seem to be about to burst. Now they are stuck. If it were someone else, they would have died by now. Seeing that she was about to be swallowed up by the mudslide, she was crying loudly in panic, completely losing the appearance of an elegant and calm lady. When he saw Wang Daniu, he felt like he had grabbed a life-saving straw and waved to him desperately for help. Daniu, come here, Wang Daniu, come and save me. Wang Daniu thought of her usual evil deeds and just squatted on the rock next to him, looking at her with a cold expression. He did not reach out to her even though he was so close to her. "Madam, I am an orphan with no one to take care of me. If I, a lowly person like you, help you, won't I get your hands dirty?" These were the insults Wang Jiaojiao had said to him in the past, and now he was returning them all, which made him feel really good. "Nephew Daniu, I know I was wrong, please help me quickly." The rain was still pouring down and could take her life at any time. Wang Jiaojiao had no time to care about her face and could only beg for mercy. Wang Daniu stood aside and watched the situation, with no intention of taking any action. At this time, Yang Mimi also came over and saw this scene. She was immediately shocked. "Daniu, why are you still standing there? Human life is at stake. Save him first." Yang Mimi is kind-hearted. She reached out her hand to pull the plump Wang Jiaojiao. "Isn't this courting death? If things go wrong, both of them will fall." Wang Daniu stopped her and said, "All right, let me do it." Wang Daniu has the magical dragon skill, so it is easy for him to save her. But he didn't want to save such a mean person from the bottom of his heart. Even if he wanted to save her life, she would have to suffer a little. Wang Daniu stretched out his arm, but he didn't use much strength and failed to pull her up after several attempts. "Aunt Wang, you are too heavy. I have to grab your clothes to pull you up." Wang Daniu acted helpless. Now Wang Jiaojiao just wanted to survive, so she nodded quickly. Wang Daniu then chuckled, reached out and grabbed her collar, pulled it up with his left hand, and slapped her plump buttock several times with his right hand. Attacking from both sides, Wang Daniu's hands seemed to be electrified. Wang Jiaojiao's body trembled and she gasped. "Da. Daniu, please be gentle with my old arms and legs. I can't stand it if you do this. Can't bear it." Wang Daniu sneered, "Okay then, I won't save you." As he said that, Wang Daniu spread out his 5 fingers, which made Wang Jiaojiao break out in a cold sweat. "Nephew, do whatever you want. I can bear it." Wang Daniu was now somewhat satisfied and pulled her up again. "Auntie, who do you think is the meaner of the two of us?" "I'm a bitch, I'm just a bitch, okay. Hurry up and pull my aunt up," Wang Jiaojiao said while enduring the insult. Wang Daniu's men worked hard and finally rescued Wang Jiaojiao. Boom! A mudslide completely crushed the place where she was just now. Several people were frightened and broke out in cold sweats. It was a close call. The rain was still falling, so the 3 people quickly left the river and returned to the ruined temple to take shelter from the rain. It was raining heavily outside and no one knew when the rain would stop. The dilapidated temple was leaking everywhere. Yang Mimi and Wang Daniu chose a place sheltered from the wind. Wang Jiaojiao stayed alone near the door, and the 3 of them lay down around the fire. Unexpectedly, a gust of wind blew and a stream of water poured right on the fire. With wisps of blue smoke, the fire was completely extinguished. The temperature dropped sharply in an instant, and the 3 of them shivered with cold. "Daniu, I'm so cold," Yang Mimi said in a whisper with blue lips. Wang Daniu held her in his arms without saying a word to keep her warm. After all, they were about to be husband and wife, so this scene was reasonable. Seeing this scene, Wang Jiaojiao, who was also shivering, licked her lips and said, "Daniu, I'm cold too." TSK. Wang Daniu rolled his eyes and ignored her. After another 2 hours, the temperature reached its lowest point. Wang Jiaojiao felt her limbs become stiff. If she continued like this, she would be frozen to death. Looking at Yang Mimi snuggling in Wang Daniu's arms, feeling warm and with a rosy face, Wang Jiaojiao was extremely jealous. "Daniu, I'm so cold, can you let me stay in your arms to keep warm? Good brother, please, I just hope I don't freeze to death." Seeing that Wang Daniu was unmoved, Wang Jiaojiao actually started to act coquettishly in a disgusting way. Wang Daniu got goosebumps all over his body. "You are almost 50 years old, is it appropriate for you to get into my arms?" "Hey, brother Daniu, although I am old, I have taken good care of myself. My skin is as delicate and tender as that of young people. It feels so comfortable to touch." After hearing this, Wang Daniu became interested. Now Yang Mimi was lying in his arms on his left side. If Wang Jiaojiao was included, there would be 3 people in total. Surrounded by beauties and treated like an emperor, Wang Daniu's desire to marry Feifei increased unconsciously. He had never tried holding 2 women at the same time, 1 dragon and 2 phoenixes. That must be extremely exciting. Thinking of this, Wang Daniu raised his head and looked at Wang Jiaojiao again. She doesn't look ugly, especially her figure. She's a little plump, but her skin is smooth and should feel nice. Okay, I'll agree to it reluctantly. Wang Daniu nodded. Wang Jiajie felt as if she had found a treasure. She responded quickly, ran over happily, and got to the right side of Wang Daniu. Their skins touched, and Wang Jiajie's body leaned completely over. Wang Jiajie felt very cold, so without waiting for Wang Daniu's consent, she pressed herself against Wang Daniu's warm chest and began to plunder his heat. A soft feeling came over her. Wang Jiajie's skin was just as she said, smooth like tofu, soft and boneless. Being so close, Wang Daniu could feel everything about Wang Jiajie. With women on both sides, Wang Daniu began to get restless and became dishonest. Chapter 13 The Best Hotel in Town. This little girl is so abominable. If Yang Mimi is not around, Wang Daniu will never indulge her and will definitely kill her. But now Yang Mimi was lying on his shoulder, and Wang Daniu didn't dare to make any big noise. I had no choice but to reach out and pinch her lower back, silently warning her to be more obedient. Although Wang Jiajie doesn't look like an old woman in her 40s or 50s, her skin is even more delicate than Wang Daniu's sister-in-law. No wonder she dares to seduce men so blatantly. A woman is like a tiger at the age of 40. Her husband Liu Defu could no longer satisfy her needs. She finally met Wang Daniu, so how could she be willing to let him go so easily? Wang Jiajie was thinking about how to avoid Yang Mimi and Wang Daniu's intimacy when the rain suddenly stopped. Daniu, we're not going to get down anymore. Yang Mimi was the first to climb up, and the state of being hugged by people on both sides was immediately disbanded. Yes, but it's already past 4 o'clock. Even if we go to the Civil Affairs Bureau, they'll be off work. Wang Daniu looked at the time and said, it can't be done today. Why don't we go back first and come back tomorrow? Yang Mimi was reluctant, but there was nothing she could do since God was not on her side. At this time, Wang Jiajie suggested, since we are here, why don't we stay in town for one night, and then we can go to do business early the next morning without having to travel back and forth. This is a good idea. Yang Mimi expressed her opinion immediately. That's good, but it's going to cost a lot of money to stay in town for one night. In fact, food and drink all cost money, and Wang Daniu was short of money, so he couldn't help but feel a little worried. Wang Jiajie chuckled, you two saved me today, so of course I will repay you. When we go to town, I will host a dinner for you two, just as a way of repaying your favor. Yang Mimi was not short of money to begin with, she just wanted to get things done quickly to avoid any further complications. She was afraid of hurting Wang Daniu's self-esteem by offering to pay, so Wang Jiajie's suggestion was just right and Yang Mimi had no objection. Wang Daniu didn't expect that Wang Jiajie was so loyal, so he agreed naturally. Since everyone agrees, let's go now while the rain stops. The two women squeezed into Wang Daniu's electric bike together. Wang Daniu sat in the middle. In front sat Yang Mimi, with a slender waist, who snuggled in his arms. Behind sat Wang Jiajie, a mature woman with plump rosy cheeks. It was a very crowded place. The three of them huddled together for warmth in the temple, and this sitting posture did not make them feel awkward. As the mountain road became rugged, the car was shaking violently. Yang Mimi hugged Wang Daniu's chest tightly like a little kitten. Daniu, slow down. My butt is about to break in half. Okay, lean back and sit on my lap. Wang Daniu said with concern. Seeing that Wang Daniu cared about her, Yang Mimi smiled slightly and reluctantly put her arms around Wang Daniu's neck. Bang! The car hit a rock and shook violently. Yang Mimi's small body flew up and her lips kissed her on the face. The two of them were stunned and their faces turned red. Daniu, you should be more careful. Why are you so impatient? Yang Mimi said shyly. Wang Jiajie saw this and snorted with jealousy. You are so pretentious, you are the only one who can seduce men. Just then, Wang Jiajie suddenly cried out, and bumped hard into Wang Daniu's back. Who can stand this? Wang Daniu suddenly felt his blood boiling and he was about to explode. Ouch, why is this broken road so bumpy? After winning the game, Wang Jiajie smoothed her hair contentedly. Even the straightest man can't stand it. Wang Daniu frowned and said, Wang Jiajie, can you sit still? If you fall into the ditch, no one will save you. Brother Daniu, I am kind-hearted and fat, not that delicate, unlike some people who look like foxes and only try to suppress their men. Yang Mimi's expression suddenly changed, and she didn't know where she had offended her. He insinuated, "It's really the story of the farmer and the snake." Seeing that the two women were about to quarrel, Wang Daniu shouted, "Shut up, whoever is talking, get out." The two women suddenly didn't dare to say a word. They didn't dare to argue openly, but they kept fighting secretly. They finally made it into the city. There were more people on the road and the two women finally calmed down. Wang Daniu got a chance to catch his breath. "Aunt Wang, which hotel do you think we should stay in tonight?" asked Wang Daniu. "You've finally come to town, so of course you have to stay in the best place." Wang Jiaojia was originally from the city and was very familiar with this area. "Then let's go to Qinchi restaurant." The name sounds impressive. Wang Daniu smiled, "Then we won't be polite. Sorry for the expense." He, you are my savior, and this is just the beginning. "Let's go, I'll pay the bill," Wang Jiaojia said with a generous attitude. Yang Mimi was also shocked. She performed in a song and dance troupe and always went to luxurious places. Of course she had heard of the name Qinchi restaurant. It was the most upscale 3-star hotel. Of course, such a luxurious place was very expensive, and she had never been to such a luxurious place. This Wang Jiaojia is really rich. With Wang Jiaojia's guidance, Wang Daniu soon arrived in front of a building on his electric bike. There were a lot of cars parked in front of the door, and Wang Daniu's small electric car parked there looked out of place. Hey, you can park anywhere else here, hurry up and leave." Before Wang Daniu could recover from his admiration, a uniformed security guard ran over with a face as sullen as Chanbai Mountain. "We want to stay in a hotel," Wang Jiaojia shouted. "You guys." The security guard's eyes were full of disbelief. "Among the three people in front of me, Wang Daniu is a genuine migrant worker. He is wearing a white vest and coat, his trouser legs rolled up to his knees, and a straw hat on his head. He looks really unfashionable." The remaining two women were white, but covered in mud, as if they had crawled out of a mud pit. The three of them were soaking wet, and every step they took left a wet footprint. "Just these three poor losers want to stay in the best hotel in town? Fuck, are you kidding me? You've got the wrong door. This is a 3-star hotel. Hurry up and leave. If you dirty the carpet, you won't be able to pay for it." The security guard waved his hands in disgust, as if he was herding ducks. Chapter 14, Dog Eyes Look Down on People. "Isn't this bullying?" Wang Daniu was immediately furious. "Do you have hearing problems? I already said I want to stay at the hotel. A good dog doesn't block the road. Get out of my way." "Hey, poor bastard, how can you curse me?" The security guard turned the tables and blocked our way rudely. "Don't be so shameless. If you can afford to live here, I'll call you daddy. Get out of here now." The young security team pointed at Wang Daniu and made sarcastic remarks, and blew whistles to call a group of security guards. These security guards look down on others. If the tiger doesn't show its power, they will think they are a sick cat. Now Wang Daniu is practicing the Divine Dragon Kung Fu, and his physical fitness has been greatly improved. He can beat 30 of the young security guards in front of him. Wang Daniu rolled up his sleeves, ready to use some strength to deal with those blind security guards. At this time, Wang Jiaojia jumped out of the car, rushed to the security captain, and slapped him 3 times in the face. The security captain was stunned and the security guards around him looked at each other in bewilderment. "That bitch dared to hit our captain, let's go together and take her down." 7 or 8 security guards waved their fists and rushed forward to beat Wang Jiaojia. Beating a woman. Wang Daniu couldn't stand this the most. Just as he was about to take action, Wang Jiaojia scolded him. "Go and hand over your manager Hu to me. Your guard dog actually dared to hit me." These words were said in a domineering manner, and Wang Jiaojia's powerful aura really intimidated the security guards. "Who are you? Who cares who I am? Call the manager out for me." After a tug of war between the two sides, the hotel manager was finally alarmed, and a man with a big belly came out. "Mr. Hu, I'm sorry to disturb you." Seeing this big-bellied man, the security guard who was arrogant just now immediately turned into a kitten. "You can't even handle such a small matter, you are such a loser." The manager snorted angrily in a very stylish manner, turned his head and looked over. Wang Jiaojia was looking down at him with her arms crossed in front of her chest. "Oh my god, Grandma, when did you come? Why didn't you inform me in advance? Manager Hu, you are quite capable. I can't even get into my own house. I guess I need to call my cousin. Manager Hu, who had been so arrogant just now, was now like a frost-bitten eggplant, and slapped himself in the face twice. Grandma, please don't be angry. Don't tell our boss, or I, Xiao Hu, will have no food to eat. How could Manager Hu, who has always been so high and mighty, be so servile to a country bumpkin? The security team members were whispering, but Manager Hu turned around and kicked the security team leader in the butt. The security captain knelt down in front of the three people like a dog eating shit. Do you know who this is? She's our big boss's cousin. Why don't you go over and apologize? Led by the security captain, several security guards lined up and bowed to the three people. Get out. The manager waved his hand to send me away, then turned around and came to Wang Jiaojia with a grin on his face. Grandma, I have prepared the best banquet to calm you down. Can you please be so kind as to ignore me? Manager who earns more than 100,000 yuan a year here, and he can't bear to lose this job. Having regained her face and getting a high-end banquet for free, Wang Jiaojia twisted her neck and nodded like Empress Dowager Cixi. Since you are quite sensible, let's just leave it at that. Arrange the banquet well. These two are my honored guests. Yes, yes. Manager who agreed repeatedly, don't worry about your guests, they are also my ancestors. Then let's go in. Wang Jiaojia nodded to Wang Daniu, and the three of them stopped the car and prepared to go in. At this time, Manager Hu came to Wang Jiaojia and said in a low voice, Auntie, the boss is having dinner in the hotel. Do you want to go over and say hello? My cousin is here too. Wang Jiaojia was very surprised. What a coincidence. After thinking for a while, Wang Jiaojia called Wang Daniu over and said, the big boss of this hotel, my cousin, is a capable man. How about I introduce him to you? It will be more convenient for you to have more opportunities in the future. Wang Daniu was thinking about how to get out of poverty and become rich. Of course he couldn't miss such a good thing that came to his doorstep. Okay, Aunt Wang, I really didn't expect your family to be so powerful. Wang Jiaojia winked at him and said, Daniu, we are destined to be together. I am very optimistic about you. Let's go and change clothes first. Let's go meet my cousin. Manager who was a smart man. He had already prepared 3 sets of clean clothes. Several people changed into them and followed him to the box. Their hotel owner is Liu Lei, who is currently sitting in room 308 with a beautiful woman in his arms. That's his wife, Han Lei. She's very cool and pretty. She's a teacher at the town's high school. In addition, there was another prominent figure in the box, the town's security director, Sun Anming, and several of his younger brothers. Opening the door of the box, Wang Jiaojia greeted Liu Lei, cousin. Seeing Wang Jiaojia, Liu Lei quickly stood up, his eyes full of surprise. Although they are cousins, they grew up together and have a good relationship. Jiaojia, what brings you here? Han Lei also stood up, and a pair of shiny earrings made her look particularly classy. Jiaojia, you miss me so much. Sister-in-law, I miss you too. The two of them gave each other a warm hug, and Wang Jiaojia put her arm around Han Lei's slender waist and pinched her butt. Sister-in-law, your figure has become even more curvy. How can you be so arrogant? You are worth 2 people. I think Lao Li is about to be squeezed dry by you. The two of them were chatting and laughing, and it was obvious that they had a good relationship. The people in this city are open-minded. Wang Daniu and Yang Mimi stood stiffly in front of these upper-class people, feeling a little reserved. Wang Jiaojia waved her hand and brought the two of them to Liu Lei. Cousin, this is Wang Daniu, a fellow villager from our village, and this is my cousin Liu Lei. Hello, brother Liu. Wang Daniu extended his hand to formally meet Liu Lei. Because of Wang Jiaojia's relationship, Liu Lei was quite enthusiastic towards the two country guys. After a round of greetings, they sat down. Liu Lei put his ear close to Wang Jiaojia's ear and said, Cousin, there's something wrong with you, isn't there? Something's wrong. What do you mean? Wang Jiaojia said, shaking her hair. Liu Lei smiled ambiguously, don't you always look down on the people of Dahua village? You say they are country bumpkins. You even don't take your husband, the village chief, seriously. Why do you look at this young boy differently? Hate it. What do you want to say? Wang Jiaojia pretended to be angry and pouted. Hey, don't you know what I'm saying? Isn't he super cool? Broad shoulders and narrow waist, a little wolf dog. Do you like him? Oh, that's annoying. What nonsense are you talking about, cousin? He came here with his wife. Wang Jiaojiao said shyly. Chapter 15 Strange Girl. Do you want me to help you think of a solution? Liu Lei winked at Wang Jiaojiao mysteriously. Come on, let's eat. Wang Jiaojiao waved her hand and turned to see Wang Daniu and Yang Mimi sitting there stiffly. Come, two distinguished guests, eat your food. Wang Jiaojiao stood up attentively and put several dishes on the two people's plates. In the past, Wang Daniu's impression of Wang Jiaojiao was that she was mean and sarcastic, but he didn't expect that this woman was so loyal to her friends. Because of her sincerity, Wang Daniu felt that she was someone he could make friends with. Compared with Wang Jiaojiao's enthusiasm, the public security director Sun Anming didn't have any feelings for Wang Daniu. While puffing out smoke, he squinted his triangular eyes and kept glancing at Yang Mimi out of the corner of his eye. Yang Mimi is tall and beautiful. How could I not know about such a beauty in my own territory? Sun Anming is a playboy who likes to attract many women. Now he has set his eyes on Yang Mimi and has some bad thoughts in his mind. I must get this stunning little beauty and have some fun with her no matter what. Although Sun Anming is lustful, he is not stupid to be the director of public security. When Yang Mimi and Wang Daniu are together, it's like flowers stuck in cow dung. This doesn't make sense. This kid doesn't have any background. It won't be too late to find out first before taking action. Thinking of this, a smile suddenly appeared on Sun Anming's face. He happily raised the wine glass and nodded at Wang Daniu and Yang Mimi. Brothers and sisters, this is the first time we meet. From now on, we are family. I toast to you. Yang Mimi and Wang Daniu were flattered and quickly picked up their glasses and drank them all. Har har, that's great. Brother and sister are a perfect match. I wonder where they are working now and if they have any relatives in town. Wang Daniu didn't understand this trick at all, so he said directly, I am a farmer from Daohua village, farming at home. Oh, a farmer, Sun Anmin felt disdainful in his heart, this guy is nothing. So he fixed his eyes on Yang Mimi, whose temperament didn't look like that of a rural person. I work in the song and dance troupe. Feeling Sun Anming's fiery gaze, Yang Mimi added with some vigilance, I have a relative who is the mayor of the town. I wonder if Director Sun knows him. Mayor Yang. Sun Anming was stunned for a moment and then burst into laughter. Mayor Yang and I are old partners. The more we talk, the closer we become. Although he appeared enthusiastic on the surface, Sun Anming was actually sneering in his heart. He has a special relationship with the mayor, but he has never heard of the name Yang Mimi, which means that the two are just from the same ethnic group and from the same hometown. Yang Mimi is an interesting little bitch. She wants to use the mayor to scare me. But based on his relationship with Mayor Yang, which is far from comparable to Yang Mimi, you can't escape from my control. Since both of them are ordinary people with no power or influence, it will be easy to deal with. Sun Anming made up his mind to take down Yang Mimi today. However, it is still a bit difficult to have sex with someone else's wife in front of her husband. Sun Anming decided to get rid of the stumbling block Wang Daniu first. Har har, brother Daniu, we are friends from now on. I won't say anything else, but from now on in this town, you, brother Sun, will protect me. Let's have a few drinks. Sun Anming found an excuse and started forcing Wang Daniu to drink. Wang Daniu had always lived in a simple little mountain village, so he was naturally not on guard against Sun Anming's cunning intentions. Wang Daniu was very happy to see the director of public security toasting ordinary people. He would be so proud if this got out. Next, Sun Anming found various reasons to toast him, and Wang Daniu drank more and more, but he didn't get drunk because he was young. Sun Anming was a little anxious and secretly glanced at Liu Lei. Liu Hao had seen a lot of this kind of thing. After receiving Sun Anming's signal, Liu Hao also stood up. Brother Daniu, you are my cousin's savior. I have to toast you a few glasses. Wang Daniu and Yang Mimi don't understand them, but Wang Jiaojia knows her cousin too well. Even though he was his savior, Liu Hao and Sun Anming were too enthusiastic. They seemed to be trying to get Wang Daniu drunk. Even if his cousin was doing this to help him, what was Sun Anming trying to do? Wang Jiaojia had a bad feeling. Cousin, forget it. Our Daniu is an honest man. Wang Jiaojia stepped forward to help, but Wang Daniu said groggily, it's okay, it's our brother's gift, we have to drink. Liu Hao shook off Wang Jiao. This is a man, you old ladies, stop worrying, let's do one first. Wang Jiao didn't know what to say and could only watch Wang Daniu get drunk. Slowly, Wang Daniu's vision became blurred, the voices of people urging him to drink gradually faded away, as if he had entered another world. The figure of a pretty and charming woman appeared in front of him. Alcohol can make people lose control of their sexual desire, and the brother between Wang Daniu's legs grew bigger again. Wang Daniu felt like he was back in the cold pond under the cliff again, and the fairy's crystal clear feet were approaching him step by step. Little fairy. Wang Daniu grabbed her and tore off her colorful clothes, and the enchanting scene of that day replayed itself on her body. Don't go, my dear. I miss you. Wang Daniu looked at the flawless body and rubbed it vigorously with his hands, fearing that she would suddenly disappear. So soft, so comfortable. Wang Daniu completely fell into the dream world of ecstasy. But this was just a happy erotic dream. Wang Daniu slowly opened his eyes and found that he was not at the table, but lying on the bed. He was holding a delicate little girl in his arms, holding her body tightly with both hands, and her shoulders were covered with bloody marks from his index fingers. Fuck, who is this? Wang Daniu came to his senses instantly and looked at the woman who was throwing herself at him. He didn't recognize her at all. Just as he was recalling what happened, the woman in his arms suddenly bit his arm. Ouch. Wang Daniu couldn't help but let go of his hand. The woman jumped off the bed and covered her chest tightly with her hands. As if being invaded by an inhuman force, she screamed like a little white rabbit in fear, "Don't come over here. Someone, help me." When Wang Daniu heard her shouting for help, he immediately panicked. What did I do to you? Girl, did you misunderstand me? I was going to ask you where this is. Boom. There was a loud bang, and the room was kicked open, shaking the ground. Don't move. Put your hands up. A team of fully armed police rushed in and without saying a word, pressed Wang Daniu to the ground. What are you going to do? Wang Daniu roared in horror. What are you doing? We received a report that someone is raping a woman here, and now we have caught him red-handed. You better behave yourself. The leading police officer showed his ID and said coldly, you can remain silent, but everything you say will be used as evidence in court. Chapter 16, Was someone plotting against me? Take the people away. Before Wang Daniu could react, he was pushed into a police car by several plainclothes officers. A few minutes later, Wang Daniu was taken into the interrogation room. The dazzling lights made him even more confused. Tell me the truth about how you raped the hotel waitress Du Xiaohuan. Confess and be treated leniently, resist and be treated severely. As the police pressed on with their questions, the scattered images in Wang Daniu's mind were pieced together. While drunk, he raped a waitress in their hotel, who was a female college student working part-time to support herself. Her name was Du Xiaohuan. Mr. Policeman, I can't remember anything you're talking about. I just remember drinking with my friends in a bar. I drank a lot and then I blacked out. The police officer also knew that what Wang Daniu said was most likely true, and the alcohol test in his body had already revealed the problem. Well, whether you are sober or not, you have violated the law, and the situation is serious. Once all the evidence is confirmed, you will be sentenced to at least 20 years in prison. Wang Daniu slumped in his chair. An honest man like him never thought of breaking the law. 20 years, then my life is over, right? Is there any way to reduce the punishment? Wang Daniu looked at the police officer pleadingly. The police officer glanced at him coldly and said, this matter can be serious or minor. Unless Du Xiaohuan withdraws the lawsuit and does not pursue the case, you will definitely go to jail. Upon hearing this result, Wang Daniu was completely disheartened, but he always felt something was wrong. I was clearly drinking with so many friends at the table, how could I have booked a room and even had to sit and do such a thing? What about other people? Could it be that someone is plotting against me? After entering the cell, Wang Daniu gradually came to his senses and sorted things out carefully. Given Liu Lei and Sun Anming's identities, why did they try so hard to establish a relationship with me yesterday? It was obvious that they just wanted to get me drunk. This turned out to be a trap to trap me. I have no grudge against them, so why do they try every means to humiliate me? This is really too much. Bang! A punch hit the wall hard. Wang Daniu was immediately furious and wanted to break out of the prison door to seek justice. But his divine dragon method is still in its infancy. Apart from knowing some medical skills and being a little stronger, he cannot withstand real guns and bullets. Looking at the police patrolling outside, Wang Daniu could only endure it for the time being. In the hotel's private room on the other side, Sun Anming rushed in and said in a false tone, "Your husband raped the waitress to Xiaohuan and was arrested by the police." "What? How is that possible? Didn't you say to send him to the guest room to sleep?" Yang Mimi stood up and prepared to go outside, but was stopped by Sun Anming. "Big sister, can you say that? Alcohol can make people lose their temper. Which man doesn't cheat?" Sun Anming reached out and locked the door, then pushed her against the wall with an evil smile on his face. It was then that Yang Mimi realized that after everyone else had left, only she and the drunken Sun Anming were left in the room. "It's you did it on purpose." Yang Mimi reacted instantly, pushed him away with force, her eyes wide open in anger. Sun Anming smiled silently, reached out and pulled off his tie, revealing his true appearance. "Big sister, since you've seen through it, I won't pretend anymore. This is a trap I set. Asshole. We have no grudge against you, why did you frame him?" Yang Mimi asked heartbreakingly. Sun Anming came to the sofa and sat down in a casual manner, picked up a glass of red wine, shook it and drank it all in one gulp. "Good question. It's all because of you." "Me?" Yang Mimi was stunned. Sun Anming looked at her with lustful eyes and said in an admiring tone, "You are so attractive, how can you let Wang Daniu ruin you? I like you." Yang Mimi felt as if struck by lightning, danger signals were overwhelming her, and she wanted to escape in a panic. Sun Anming was not panicked at all and just sighed, "I just don't like to force myself on others. You can leave if you want, but the police station just called and said they will sentence him to 20 years in prison." In an instant, Yang Mimi, who had run to the door, stopped and felt extremely painful. She didn't expect that her life was so tough. She had already brought bad luck to Daniu before she even married him. Wang Daniu saved her life, and she really fell in love with the honest and simple Wang Daniu, so she had to find a way to save him no matter what. "Director Sun, please be kind and let us go." Yang Mimi fell to her knees in front of Sun Anming with a plop. "Oh my, big sister, please get up quickly. I'm so worried about you." The evil plan succeeded, and Sun Anming's lustful eyes moved back and forth across Yang Mimi's beautiful face. "You are sensible. As long as you follow me, I can decide everything." Sun Anming reached out and patted the sofa next to him. "Sister, come and sit down. Sitting next to that old pervert is like a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth. This is my fate. I am ultimately a black widow who brings bad luck to my husband. Even if Wang Daniu and I are not destined to be together, I will save him at all costs." Sighing, Yang Mimi reluctantly chose to compromise and slowly retreated from the escape door to Sun Anming's side. "Oh, this little girl is so pretty." Seeing Yang Mimi standing in front of him like a stubborn little pony, Sun Anming grabbed Yang Mimi's little hand. "This is my fate. I accept it. If you want me to be with you, I can do that." Yang Mimi raised her head. "As long as Wang Daniu comes out of the police station, I will end it all with him immediately, and then be with you." Har har har, Sun Anming burst into laughter. "I really didn't make a mistake about you. If my little darling follows me, I guarantee you'll have everything you need." Sun Anming's hand kept touching Yang Mimi's buttocks. "Little pony, you are quite stubborn." Looking at Sun Anming's dirty hands, Yang Mimi suppressed her nausea and said coldly, "Do it now, or you will get nothing." "That's easy. I've given advance notice and have detained the man at the town police station. Whether he lives or dies depends on your decision." Sun Anming picked up the mobile phone from the table and made a call. "Hello, is this the police station? I'm the director of public security, Sun Anming." "Hey, Director Sun, what do you want me to do?" "Let's drop the case against Wang Daniu. I'll take care of Du Xiaohuan, so let her go." "Are you going to let them go now?" "Of course, I, Sun Anming, will be your guarantor." "Why are you still hesitating? Release him immediately." Sun Anming raised his voice and began to show off his authority as the immediate superior. Okay, let him go now." Sun Anming hung up the phone with satisfaction and looked at Yang Mimi proudly. "Look, my words worked. You heard it, the man was released." Sun Anming wiped the corner of his mouth and turned his eyes to look at Yang Mimi. "Mimi, it's time to fulfill your words. Let me see how you perform." Chapter 17 Don't Regret. In the cell, Wang Daniu was racking his brains thinking about how to clear his name, when the cell door opened with a bang. A policeman walked in. Wang Daniu, pack up and follow me. Wang Daniu was shocked. How could this scene be like the last moments of a death row inmate? Sir, even if I'm guilty of rape, I shouldn't be sentenced to death. Besides, the trial hasn't started yet. You can't just shoot me without knowing it. The police rolled their eyes at him and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? Du Xiaohuan came to overturn the case, saying that you two were boyfriend and girlfriend and that she had a fight with you, so she sued you. Now, the facts are clear. You have been wronged. Is that so? Are you going to let me out?" The surprise came so suddenly that Wang Daniu could hardly believe it. The police nodded. "What are you waiting for? Let's go now." Wang Daniu felt like he was dreaming, and then he felt relieved. He was about to step out of the police station door when he suddenly remembered something and looked at the police. "It's not that simple. Can I meet Du Xiaohuan? You are just trying to take advantage of others. Get out of here right away." The police officer said coldly, "You will never see Du Xiaohuan again. She made a false report and disrupted the normal judicial process. She has been imprisoned and sentenced to 1 year." What? Wang Daniu felt a sense of emotion. She always felt that something was a little strange. Du Xiaohuan would rather go to jail than save her? If I really raped her, how could she do that? Isn't this a case of trying to cover up one's own guilt? Officer, there are still some doubts in this case. Listen to me. Wang Daniu still wanted to make things clear, but the police pushed him away. The woman outside the door is here to pick you up, right? Let's go. Wang Daniu looked up and saw a beautiful figure standing outside the police station gate. It was his fiancée Yang Mimi. "Honey." Wang Daniu waved his hands vigorously, temporarily put aside the doubts in his mind, and ran over happily. A heavy rain brought the two people closer together, and Yang Mimi's kindness and virtue also made Wang Daniu like her more and more. Wang Daniu walked up to Yang Mimi and gave her a tight hug, with a big hand around her waist, and started touching her randomly. The Zhuang family has always been very direct. Wang Daniu hugged his wife and no longer concealed his inner desire. He used his hands to forcibly separate her legs, hungrily seeking his own comfort. Yang Mimi's body felt like it was electrocuted and she became a little excited. But when he closed his eyes, he suddenly thought of the promise he made to Sun Anming. Yang Mimi gritted her teeth, put away her passion, and coldly pushed Wang Daniu away. "What's wrong? I should have gotten the certificate, but you won't let me touch you." Wang Daniu's smiling face froze instantly, and he thought Yang Mimi was angry with him. "Wife, I was wronged. Wang Daniu, I'm not the kind of person who has affairs with men and women. You must believe me. If I really had something wrong, would the police let me go? It's all a misunderstanding." Wang Daniu explained with a smile, thinking it was just a small misunderstanding between husband and wife. After hearing this, Yang Mimi felt heartbroken. Of course, she knew the truth very well. Wang Daniu is not that kind of person, but he is too honest, so he was fooled by Sun Anming. It was her compromise that allowed Wang Daniu to get out safely, but if he knew about this, he would be in danger of death. Even if he rekindled his old feelings for Wang Daniu, Sun Anming would definitely not let it go. Who is Sun Anming? He is the town's security director. His revenge is something that small people like her and Wang Daniu cannot bear. Now that things have come to this, we have no choice but to cut the Gordian knot. Yang Mimi shuddered, frowned slightly and said in a cold voice, "Wang Daniu, you know what you have done. Our wedding is cancelled." "What did you say?" Wang Daniu was stunned for a moment, as if struck by lightning. "You said you won't marry me." This incident was a blow to Wang Daniu, and his eyes flashed with anger. Why? Why? Yang Mimi sneered, feeling extremely painful inside. "Brother Daniu, just forget about me, the black widow who brings bad luck to her husband." Yang Mimi raised her face and pretended to be disdainful. "Wang Daniu, do you think it's possible for us? I'm a star in the city's song and dance troupe. Are you worthy of me?" "What do you mean by that? Why did you say in our house that I was the only one who could protect you? Besides, you are not the kind of person who despises the poor and loves the rich." Wang Daniu's series of questions touched Yang Mimi deeply, but she felt that she was too miserable to enjoy it. "To tell you the truth, listen carefully, I am now Sun Anming's man." "Sun Anming? How is this possible?" You just met yesterday. Why are you like this? Wang Daniu shook his head in disbelief. Yang Mimi snorted coldly, I am this kind of person. Actors are ruthless and bitches are unrighteous. Haven't you heard this saying? Anyway, from now on, you and I will go our separate ways, and we will go our separate ways. I never expected that Yang Mimi, who was gentle and kind in my eyes, would actually be such a person. Wang Daniu's 3 views were ruthlessly washed away. This world is so unfair. Just because you are poor, you are looked down upon, insulted and cuckolded. Wang Daniu was so angry that he was shaking all over, and he suddenly stretched out his hand and slapped Yang Mimi in the face. Don't regret it. Wang Daniu roared angrily, and once he had mastered the magic dragon technique, he would make those who humiliated him regret it. Wang Daniu strode past Yang Mimi, and glanced at the pretty woman with an angry look. After being slapped hard, Yang Mimi covered her face and showed no expression at the time. This was exactly the effect she wanted. Brother Daniu, I will no longer be unlucky for you. You must find a good family and live a happy life. Yang Mimi prayed silently in her heart until Wang Daniu's figure became smaller and finally disappeared from her sight. Wow! When Wang Daniu left, Yang Mimi could no longer hold back. All her grievances burst out at this moment. She collapsed to the ground and burst into tears. At this time, Yang Mimi's cell phone started ringing. Sun Anling's voice came from inside, how is it? Should the person be released? Yes. Yang Mimi wiped away her tears. Har har, that's good. I keep my word, and you should also fulfill your promise. You should know my methods. Since you have the ability to let him go, you also have the ability to catch him again. Don't do that. I get it. Yang Mimi softened instantly. Well, fine then, I'll send someone to drive over to pick you up. Soon a car drove over slowly. Yang Mimi knew that she had finally missed out on happiness. From then on, she would have to pretend to be in harmony with a pervert. Chapter 18 Grandpa is gone. On the other side, Wang Daniu, who was extremely sad but unaware of the situation, rushed towards the village. Along the way, Wang Daniu kept comforting himself that it was okay to break up with Yang Mimi. His grandfather would not agree anyway, and the worst that could happen was that he would be single for the rest of his life. Now that he is back home, thinking of his grandfather and sister-in-law, Wang Daniu feels much better. Seeing the clear stream at the entrance of the village, Wang Daniu stopped to wash his face, wanting to wash away his bad luck. A few old ladies were sitting under a tree at the entrance of the village chatting. They loved to gossip about the neighbors' private affairs. Fourth grandma, do you want to bask in the sun? Wang Daniu greeted them, but no one paid any attention to him. The crowd dispersed and started pointing at him. Oh my god, why don't you get to the bottom of this? Wang Daniu was also very puzzled as to why these people were so weird. Wang Daniu shook his head and continued walking towards the village. At this time, a middle-aged woman came towards them. Seeing this scene, she couldn't bear it anymore, so she shook her head and stopped Wang Daniu. Niuwazi, don't you know your grandfather is dead? Why are you still hanging around? Go home and check it out. What? The thunder struck Wang Daniu so hard that he was burnt on the outside and tender on the inside. Although my grandfather was over 70 years old, he was in good health. How could he just die like that? What nonsense are you talking about? Even if you die, my grandfather won't die. You idiot, the funeral committee is at your house. The man picked up his load, ignored him and continued on his way. Wang Daniu was stunned, feeling something was wrong, and ran home. Before I even entered, I saw a white banner hanging on the door, paper money was burning inside, and thick smoke was billowing. It must be a funeral. Something really happened to Grandpa. Wang Daniu felt dizzy and saw stars in front of his eyes. What's going on? Why did my grandfather die? Wang Daniu grabbed a member of the party committee and shook him madly. The man rolled his eyes at him and said angrily, "You have to ask yourself. Your grandfather was so angry that he died when he heard that you raped women in town." In the eyes of everyone, Wang Daniu Yangran became an unfilial son. So that's how it is. The news spread too quickly. Wang Daniu didn't bother to explain and quickly ran into the inner room. Get out of the way. Wang Daniu pushed through the crowd and stumbled into their house. My grandfather's ice coffin was placed in the main room. According to rural customs, it would take 3 days to wait for cremation after a person dies. In the summer, when the temperature is high, the bodies can only be placed in ice coffins. An ice coffin is a freezer in the shape of a coffin. It can keep food fresh when powered by electricity, but it is made of transparent glass, so the body can be viewed from the outside. Wang Daniu clearly saw that his grandfather's eyes were wide open and he died with his eyes open. Next to him was the copper iron pipe. A day ago, Grandpa Wang Taigun was whipping himself with this pipe. I can still vividly remember how many times I was chased and beaten by my strong grandfather, but he is gone. Wang Daniu was extremely sad. He cried and pounded the ice coffin. Grandpa, why didn't you wait for me to come back? Why did you leave just like that? At this time, Jiang Yinhua, whose eyes were already red from crying, heard Wang Daniu's crying. Wang Daniu! Jiang Yinhua wiped her tears and walked towards him angrily. You damn bastard, how could you do such a stupid thing? You've pissed off Grandpa to death. Jiang Yinhua scolded Wang Daniu and regarded him as the culprit. It is a heinous act to make Grandpa angry to death. No wonder my sister-in-law is so angry. This. Wang Daniu was speechless. His blood rushed up and he could no longer bear the blow. His eyes went dark and he spat out a mouthful of blood. In an instant, Wang Daniu's body fell to one side and he fainted. Wow, someone has fallen down, hurry up and save him. There was a panic in the room, and people who came to help rushed up and carried Wang Daniu to the Kang in the inner room. Jiang Yinhua was also a little frightened. She had just scolded Wang Daniu out of grief and didn't want to kill Wang Daniu as well. Wang Daniu fainted. Jiang Yinhua quickly ran over, laid on Wang Daniu's chest and burst into tears. Daniu, wake up. What sin has our Wang family committed? Grandpa is gone now. If anything happens to you again, how am I going to explain to your brother? Don't scare me. In an instant, the Wang family was in chaos, and the people around them were like ants in a scorch, running around in circles. Why are you all surrounding me? Please give way to me. At this time, a woman's voice was heard outside the door, and everyone avoided it. The person who came was none other than the village chief's wife, Wang Jiaojiao. This woman was used to being arrogant and domineering, and everyone had to give in to her when they saw her. Why is she here? That's right. I heard that she always looked down on Wang Daniu. Why is she here now? The village chief's wife saw off old man Wang Taigun. It was such an honor. There was a whisper in the crowd, but Wang Jiaojiao walked in from outside. No one could have expected that the village chief's wife, who had nothing to do with Wang Daniu, would come here to take advantage of this bad luck. In everyone's eyes, Wang Jiaojiao was superior to others. Jiang Yinhua did not expect this. She still remembered that this woman had a quarrel with Wang Daniu. Aunt Wang, you're here. Jiang Yinhua wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Wang Jiaojiao came late, not because of Wang Taigun's funeral, but because of Wang Daniu. He just took a quick look at Wang Taigun in the ice coffin and didn't even burn incense. Looking around, Wang Jiaojiao asked, Yinhua, I heard someone saw Daniu coming back. Where is he? It turned out that she was not here to see the old man off, but to see Wang Daniu. Jiang Yinhua quickly pointed inside the house. Wang Jiaojiao nodded with a complicated expression and quickly walked into the inner room, only to see Wang Daniu lying on the bed with a weak breath. Hey, what's wrong with that person? Wang Jiaojiao asked with concern. When asked this question, Jiang Yinhua's tears burst out again and she covered her eyes and sobbed. It's really frustrating. Let me ask you, what happened to Daniu? Wang Jiaojiao asked again in a stern voice. She was still wondering in her heart whether she had been injured by torture. He just spit out blood and fainted. What? Vomiting blood? Let me see. Wang Jiaojiao hurried forward and checked Wang Daniu's body. There were no wounds on her body, so Wang Jiaojiao felt relieved. I touched Wang Daniu's nostrils and found that his breath was weak and his pulse was also very weak. The qi and blood are attacking your heart now. Why don't you see a doctor? Wang Jiaojiao frowned and looked at Jiang Yinhua. Jiang Yinhua, who was standing by, was a woman after all, so she wiped her tears and shook her head. Wang Jiaojiao was anxious and immediately burst into anger. Cry, just cry. What's the use of crying? Find a doctor quickly. If you wait any longer, Daniu will be gone too. This call woke Jiang Yinhua up from his dream, and he quickly sent someone to find the village barefoot doctor to come and take a look. Chapter 19 If I don't avenge myself, I want he deserve to be your father's son. Wait, I know there's a famous doctor in Shangwankan with excellent medical skills. You go find him and say that Wang Jiao asked him to come. Okay. Desperate, Jiang Yinhua quickly asked someone to change direction and seek help from a famous doctor. Soon a famous doctor came over with a small medicine box and performed acupuncture and massage. Suddenly, Daniu took a deep breath and his breathing returned to normal. Okay, let him have a good sleep and he will wake up. Remember not to get angry. The famous doctor breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you so much, doctor. Jiang Yinhua thanked the famous doctor profusely and sent him off. The others also felt relieved and went their separate ways. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Daniu slowly woke up. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was Jiang Yinhua, whose eyes were swollen like light bulbs. Daniu, you finally woke up. How can I live if you die? Jiang Yinhua hadn't slept for 3 days and 3 nights. When she saw Daniu wake up, she was so happy that tears of excitement overflowed from her eyes. After wiping her tears, Jiang Yinhua suddenly threw herself on Wang Daniu and started crying again. After all, Wang Daniu was young and strong, and his impatience did not bring about serious consequences. Most importantly, he has the divine dragon Dharma to protect him, so his life is not in danger. Now his mind was surprisingly clear and he reached out and touched Jiang Yinhua's hair. Sister-in-law, don't just cry. Help me sort it out and see what happened. Wang Daniu still hadn't gotten over the obsession in his heart, and he was only thinking about getting things straight. Alas. Jiang Yinhua sighed, you've been in a coma for 3 days. I'll go get you a bowl of porridge. I thought you wouldn't make it, but God bless you to make it. 3 days. I have been unconscious for so long. Wang Daniu touched his head, still feeling a little dizzy. But this is not important. Now that his grandfather has lost his life because of this matter, he can't let it go. Soon Wang Jiao brought a bowl of millet porridge and fed it to Wang Daniu gently before speaking. Don't bother yourself. Sister-in-law has wronged you. It's my fault. Aunt Wang Jiao told me everything that happened in town. I know you were framed. When Wang Daniu heard Wang Jiao's name, his heart was shocked. He originally thought that Wang Jiao was an accomplice, but it seems that this may not be the case. Seeing Wang Daniu's brows twisted into a knot, Jiang Yinhua felt distressed, fearing that he was worrying too much. Don't worry, Daniu. I know you are innocent. The matter has passed. Just live a good life from now on. Jiang Yinhua blew on the rice porridge in the spoon and carefully fed it to Wang Daniu. Looking at Wang Daniu's delicate face, Jiang Yinhua couldn't help but think of the 2 carefree days in the past. The man farmed and the woman weaved and played around. When they had nothing to do, Wang Daniu would hold her on his lap and say sweet words that would make the woman blush. It was not until the moment Wang Daniu fell down that Jiang Yinhua realized that she could not live without this man in her life. The director of public security and Liu Lei are not easy to deal with. Don't try to hit a stone with an egg. Jiang Yinhua knew Wang Daniu's temper best, and was afraid that he might do something impulsive, so she tried to persuade him patiently. Wang Daniu was stunned, and recalling the humiliation Sun Anming had given him, he suddenly became furious, and almost crushed the quilt with his palm. He framed me and killed my grandfather. If I don't take revenge, I would be unworthy of being a son. Wang Daniu was determined to take revenge and no one could stop him. But in front of his sister-in-law, the protagonist did not show much emotion, but opened his mouth and drank the rice porridge that was brought to his mouth. Sister-in-law, stop talking about this, let me hug you, just like before. Wang Daniu said as he pulled back the quilt, revealing a space for Jiang Yinhua. Seeing that Wang Daniu was not excited, Jiang Yinhua felt a little relieved and thought she had persuaded him. I saw Wang Daniu's intimate gesture again. The last time was a long time ago. After just a moment of shyness, Jiang Yinhua got in. Daniu's chest was strong and warm. Daniu, hold me tight. Wang Daniu was always rejected when he wanted to hug his sister-in-law before, so why is he so proactive today? Daniu, you don't know how much I'm afraid of losing you. With just one sentence, Wang Daniu instantly became excited. Daniu, this time Wang Jiao not only helped you find someone to treat your illness, but also took the initiative to help you clarify the matter in front of the villagers. This is how the rumors were dispelled. When talking about Wang Jiao, Jiang Yinhua's face was full of gratitude. Wang Daniu is not sure what role Wang Jiaojia played in this matter, and it is difficult for him to say anything. Go and thank them properly when you have time. Jiang Yuting, the wife of Liu Degui from the canteen, has also visited a few times and brought gifts. You even had a quarrel with someone earlier, really. Rural people believe in repaying favors the most, and these favors must be repaid. Wang Daniu listened to his sister-in-law's muttering and took note of everything in his mind. It was also his character to have a clear distinction between what he liked and what he hated. Okay, sister-in-law, stop talking about this for now. Let me give you a kiss. Wang Daniu turned his sister-in-law's body over, and the two of them were facing each other and were about to kiss each other mouth to mouth. Hey, brother Daniu, you're awake. A hearty voice came from outside the door. Jiang Yinhua was so scared that he jumped off the bed and looked out the window. Wang Jiaojiao is here. She came every day during the few days you were unconscious. I came at the right time. Only a few people knew about what happened that night, and I had a lot to ask Wang Jiaojiao. Sister-in-law, go get me some anti-inflammatory medicine. Wang Daniu didn't want to involve Jiang Yinhua in what happened in the town, so he found a reason to send his sister-in-law away. Jiang Yinhua looked at Wang Daniu and then at Wang Jiaojiao. Yinhua, go find the doctor and get some medicine. Talk to the doctor about his condition and ask him to prescribe some new medicine. I'll keep an eye on him for you. Hearing what Wang Jiaojiao said, Jiang Yinhua had no choice but to nod, picked up his wallet and walked out. Wang Jiaojiao and Wang Daniu were the only ones left in the room, and it suddenly became quiet. Wang Jiaojiao, are you being hypocritical? Did I plan for this to happen? Wang Daniu asked. Wang Jiaojiao knew that Wang Daniu was angry, so she smiled and said, Daniu, you think too much of me. You dare to say that Liu Hao and Sun Anming were not introduced by you? You must have given up and let me go to the Hongmen banquet. Wang Daniu snorted coldly. What you said, I can't have predicted that you would appear in the dilapidated temple. Even if I could predict the Tao, could I have predicted the heavy rain and mudslides? This statement is true. Only God knows whether it will rain or not. Wang Daniu's mind flashed with the scene of three people huddling together for warmth and riding on three electric cars. This Wang Jiaojiao is jealous of Yang Mimi and has been trying to seduce me. After thinking for a while, he continued, you treated me to a meal, but your wife is gone, and your grandfather is dead. Are you holding a grudge against me for not saving you, and are you deliberately trying to kill me? Chapter 20 Aunt Wang, you are so seductive, it's not my fault. When Wang Jiaojiao heard Wang Daniu's questioning, tears flowed down her eyes. How could I have any intention of harming you? If I really wanted to plot against you, why would I have asked someone to save you? Wang Daniu also thought this was true, so he softened his tone and said, don't cry yet. Tell me the truth about what happened that night. Wang Jiaojiao sobbed for a while in grievance and then slowly told the story. You were drunk at the time, and Sun Anming said he would take you upstairs to rest. Yang Mimi and I didn't know he was planning to harm you. Later, when the police came, my cousin Liu Lei quietly told me that Du Xiaowan was actually someone arranged by Sun Anming to make you sleep. So, I really had sex with Du Xiaowan. Wang Daniu slapped his head angrily, or maybe I didn't have enough self-control. Don't blame yourself. Sun Anming put aphrodisiacs in the wine. You raped Du Xiaowan that night. There is evidence of your crime on her underwear. Is Sun Anming crazy? We just met for the first time, why would he frame me? This is a question that Wang Daniu has been suppressing in his heart for a long time. There must be a motive to harm someone. It's all because Yang Mimi is so pretty that Sun Anming took a fancy to her and wanted her to be his girlfriend. When mentioning Yang Mimi, Wang Daniu felt distressed. Yang Mimi's heartless words when she was released from prison hurt him deeply, and Yang Mimi said that she is Sun Anming's person now. Suddenly, his heart was in turmoil, and Wang Daniu asked anxiously, how is Yang Mimi now? Don't get excited, listen to me. Wang Jiaojiao slowed down her pace because she was worried that his body couldn't take it. Sun Anming is using this to threaten Yang Mimi. If Yang Mimi disagrees or changes her mind halfway, he will ask Du Xiaowan to change her testimony, and you will go to jail. There are witnesses and evidence, and the evidence is irrefutable. No one can help you overturn the verdict. So that's how it is. Yang Mimi is also a victim, and I actually wronged her. Wang Daniu felt extremely remorseful. He originally thought that Sun Anming was coming for him, but he didn't expect that he was coming to threaten Yang Mimi. Using himself to completely tie up Yang Mimi is such a despicable method. What's more important is that if Yang Mimi didn't care about his life or death, Sun Anming's evil plan would never have succeeded. I was so stupid. Yang Mimi gave everything just to save me, but not only did I wrongly blame her, I even gave her a slap in the face. Wang Daniu, you are such a fucking bastard. Wang Daniu cursed himself and slapped himself in the face. In an instant, blood marks appeared on Wang Daniu's face. Wang Jiaojia felt distressed when she saw him being so self-abusive. Daniu, don't be like this. This is not your fault. It's all because Sun Anming is too cunning. Wang Jiaojia hurriedly went forward and grabbed Wang Daniu's hand. But Wang Daniu was like a madman, slapping himself wildly, and Wang Jiaojia was unable to stop him with that little strength. Seeing more and more bloodstains on Wang Daniu's face, Wang Jiaojia hurriedly climbed onto the bed and came to his side. Daniu, this is all my fault. If I hadn't taken you to Chinchi restaurant, you wouldn't have been led into danger and all this would have happened. Wang Jiaojia apologized while tears streamed down her face. But Wang Daniu seemed not to hear it and continued to beat himself like a madman. If you have any anger, just vent it on me. I'll accept it if you hit me or scold me, but just don't hurt yourself. Wang Jiaojia showed her true feelings and threw herself at Wang Daniu, hugging him tightly with both hands to prevent Daniu from continuing to abuse himself. In the past, Wang Daniu knew that Wang Jiaojia was seducing him and was wary, but he still managed to control himself. Now Wang Daniu's eyes were red and he was on the verge of collapse. Wang Jiaojia's personal comfort just happened to calm his manic heart. When love is true, everything will come naturally, and soon Wang Daniu couldn't help but hug Wang Jiaojia. You said it, I want to deal with you now. Wang Daniu's eyes were red like a beast. This rough and bold masculinity just suits Wang Jiaojia's taste and she enjoys it very much. Her face turned red, her eyes were blurred, and she threw herself into Wang Daniu's arms, looking ecstatic. Wang Jiaojia twisted her mature body, shook her long hair, twisted her waist, and swayed her body smoothly. Looking at Wang Jiaojia's waist and buttocks, which exuded charming charm, Wang Daniu's heart began to burn with desire. Daniu, I can't stand it anymore. Wang Jiaojia was so aroused that she was sweating profusely and her body seemed to be melting. But Wang Daniu was very supportive, making her so happy that she couldn't breathe, and she threw herself into the battle with full energy. Woo woo. Wang Jiaojia now completely forgot that she was on the body of a patient. She twisted her body in ecstasy and her chest was surging. The experience this time was extreme and Wang Jiaojia was very satisfied. Ouch. Wang Daniu, who had just recovered from a serious illness, finally couldn't hold on any longer and fell on the bed. Daniu, what's wrong with you? This scared Wang Jiaojia so much that she instantly woke up from her dazed state and hurried forward to check. Wang Daniu chuckled, I'm fine, it's just that you should lose weight, auntie. Hateful. Wang Jiaojia pushed Wang Daniu, only to find that her clothes were no longer on her body. A blush appeared on Wang Jiaojia's cheeks. She covered her chest with her hands, looking a little embarrassed. Wang Daniu's muscular body was swaying in front of her eyes. How could Wang Jiaojia be willing to let go of someone like him? She thought about it and lay on his shoulder again. You are patient, let me serve you. After saying that, without waiting for Wang Daniu's agreement, he took off his vest. His bronze skin was shining with sweat. Do you have a backache? Let me give you a massage. Wang Jiaojia's small hand slid slowly along his wheat-colored waist and naturally entered the bulging tent. Wang Daniu had never experienced such an exciting scene before, and his heart was pounding, but he felt really comfortable. After all, Wang Jiaojia was experienced and her soft little hands teased the sensitive parts a few times. Wang Daniu could no longer control himself and directly threw off the quilt. His body, as strong as a calf, was full of strength and he subdued Wang Jiaojia in an instant. Wang Daniu could just see the beautiful ups and downs of his chest, and he was breathing heavily. Wang Jiaojia knew that Wang Daniu had reached the limit of his patience. Daniu, come up. I don't blame you. I am doing this voluntarily. Wang Daniu stared at Wang Jiaojia's seductive posture and swallowed his saliva wildly. Aunt Wang, you are so seductive, you can't blame me. Really? Wang Jiaojia raised her eyebrows. That depends on whether you have the ability to subdue me. Then give it a try. Wang Daniu didn't waste time talking to her and started peeling eggs. Chapter 21 Earn 1 million first. Wang Jiaojiao's shoulders shrugged, and waves of fragrance penetrated into Wang Daniu's nostrils. He felt very comfortable, and all the pores on his body opened up. When Wang Daniu saw Wang Jiaojiao closing her eyes in ecstasy, he immediately had the idea of playing a prank. Itchy, so itchy. Wang Daniu scratched her itchy spots, and the waves of pain made Wang Jiaojiao scream uncontrollably. You are so bad, just wait and see how I will deal with you. Wang Jiaojiao began to counterattack. The two of them were playing and rolling around on the bed. Wang Jiaojiao, haven't you always wanted to seduce me? I will satisfy you. Under constant stimulation, Wang Daniu's eyes became bloodshot and the male hormones stored in his body soared rapidly. When the desire came, it was like a violent storm, ravaging Wang Jiaojiao's plump body. Wang Daniu launched round after round of crazy output. The two people rolled from the head of the bed to the bed, and the messy bed became a battlefield for them to show their love. Wang Daniu used all his skills to take Wang Jiaojiao from one peak to another. Aha! With a low roar, Wang Daniu completed the sprint. Finally, Wang Daniu lay on the bed, gasping for breath, like a deflated balloon. Har har har, it's so enjoyable. Wang Daniu burst into laughter. Beside him, Wang Jiaojiao was completely subdued by the vigorous Wang Daniu and was also gasping for breath. This thing of yours is too big. It's almost as big as a beast. I am the animal that plows the fields. Wang Daniu got up and kissed Wang Jiaojiao again, only to find bruises on her body. Did you do all this yourself? How crazy was I just now? Wang Daniu was so happy that he was exhausted. He lay on the kang with his back facing up and stared at the scene. Then he regained his composure. Although it was Wang Jiaojiao who took me to the restaurant, this matter had nothing to do with her. On the contrary, she took care of me so much. I just used such a fierce action that I left him covered in bruises. This is a bit too unfair. Jiaojiao, did I hurt you just now? Wang Daniu asked embarrassedly. Wang Jiaojiao raised her eyebrows slightly, and said angrily while putting on her clothes, What are you talking about? I am an old cow eating young grass, and I am still the one who benefits from it. Har har har, you were really scary when you did that just now, but I'm really happy in my heart. Wang Jiaojiao stretched her sore waist and said, I haven't been this happy for a long time. I have to thank Brother Daniu. Seeing that Wang Jiaojiao still had the energy to act coquettishly, Wang Daniu's depression instantly disappeared. She is truly a wonderful person who can be trusted. The matter has been thoroughly clarified. Wang Daniu was furious. He knew that every wrong had its perpetrator and that Sun Anming must pay the price. Seeing Wang Jiaojiao putting on her clothes and preparing to leave, Wang Daniu spoke. Aunt Wang, I made you so comfortable, can you do me a favor? Wang Jiaojiao pouted, What do you mean by yours and mine? Why are you pretending to be so smart? Just tell me what you want to do for me. Think of a way to get Sun Anming out for me. I'm going to teach him a lesson. Wang Daniu said seriously. What? Upon hearing this, Wang Jiaojiao's body stiffened, and she turned around with a stern face, Brother Daniu, this is not a joke. Do you know that the thought just now was terrible? It's better to have less trouble than more. Just accept your fate. Repay kindness with kindness and repay hatred with hatred. Why doesn't Sun Anming have to pay the price for his bad deeds? Wang Daniu said indignantly. Daniu, you look like an angry young man now, you know that. Wang Jiaojiao sighed and said earnestly, We live in a society ruled by law now. You say Sun Anming is a bad guy. What evidence do you have? Even if you call Sun Anming out and beat him up, it will be useless. Can you find your Yang Mimi? Can your grandfather come back to life? On the contrary, if he catches you, with his current status, he has 100 or 1,000 ways to make you live a life worse than death. Wang Jiaojiao tried to persuade him earnestly, but Wang Daniu didn't take it to heart. He said blankly, I'll die. The worst that can happen is that both sides will be ruined. Anyway, I have nothing to lose. Brother Daniu, you are happy, but you have ruined your life in vain. Are you going to watch the Wang family die out? Think about your sister-in-law who is worried about you, and Yang Mimi who saved you from Sun Anming's hands. You have failed their expectations. These two sentences touched Wang Daniu's heart. His body shook violently and he was suddenly awakened by Wang Jiaojiao's scolding. I still have so many responsibilities on my shoulders. My previous thought was so reckless. Wang Daniu remained silent for a while, then raised his head and said, "Thank you, Aunt Wang. I am too simple-minded. Don't worry, I won't be impulsive again." Seeing Wang Daniu say this, Wang Jiaojiao let out a long sigh and patted her chest. "Oh, my little ancestor, you scared me to death. People like Sun Anming have done so many evil things that they will suffer retribution sooner or later. As long as you work hard to improve your skills, you will have the opportunity to take revenge." "Aunt, you are right. I need to lie low and improve my abilities first." At this time, there was a noise outside the door, and Wang Jiaojiao quickly tidied her clothes. "Daniu, your sister-in-law is back. You should clean up the battlefield quickly, and remember not to get stuck in a rut." Wang Jiaojiao gave a few hurried instructions and walked out the door. I met Jiang Yinhua in the yard, and wished her good luck in looking after Daniu, and then left. Jiang Yinhua thanked Wang Jiaojiao profusely, then entered the house and saw that Wang Daniu had a rosy complexion and looked radiant, and did not look like a patient at all. "Hey, Daniu, how come you suddenly got better?" Jiang Yinhua asked puzzledly, and glanced around aimlessly, and found a few more pieces of toilet paper on the ground. Wang Daniu quickly patted his chest and said, "Sister-in-law, I'm fine. I'm just a little hungry. Please make me a delicious meal." Seeing that Wang Daniu was in high spirits, Jiang Yinhua was so happy that she didn't ask any more questions. Okay, sister-in-law will make you your favorite braised pork, just wait." Jiang Yinhua walked out, and Wang Daniu quickly rolled the 2 wet toilet papers aside, then he breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally figured out what he had just said to Wang Jiaojiao. The most important thing right now was to improve his own strength. The fastest way to improve your own strength is the Dragon God method. This secret book has been in my body for some time, but I have never had time to study it carefully. Once I have arranged my grandfather's future, I will devote myself to studying this book. I don't expect to become a god or an immortal, I just hope that I have the ability to blow Sun Anming's head off with one punch and avenge this blood feud. In addition to physical fitness, Wang Daniu also understood one thing: if you want to live comfortably in this world, you must be rich and powerful. So his second goal is to make money, to make a million first. Chapter 22 CC, what are you doing? For several days, Wang Daniu rested and recuperated while planning how to improve his strength. But Liu Degui's family, who worked in the convenience store at the east end of the village, was busy. Liu Cici's arranged marriage is in full swing, and Liu Cici is getting married today. Jiang Yuting and Liu Degui got up early and took people to clean up the house inside and outside. The yard was hung with big red hydrangeas and lanterns, and a few streamers were made to create a festive atmosphere, just waiting for her new son-in-law to arrive. These wedding characters are pasted crookedly. Please be careful. The man is Wang Gang, the college student secretary next door. Don't embarrass our Daohua village. As the mastermind behind this marriage, the village chief Liu Defu also came over to give instructions and make all the preparations for the wedding. Although it was bustling outside, the bride Liu Cici had a layer of frost on her face and looked unusually gloomy. She didn't like this marriage because her mind was full of her big brother. When they were playing games as children, she was the bride and Wang Daniu was always the groom. It felt so good to sit on his neck. Another time, Liu Cici fell into the river, and Wang Daniu jumped in without saying a word to save herself. At that time, Liu Cici was almost drowned by the water. It was brother Daniu who held her in his arms, jumped around and kissed her, and performed artificial respiration, and only then did he bring her back from the brink of death. Thinking of their past, Liu Cici couldn't help but reveal a long-lost smile on her face. She heard about what happened to brother Daniu these days and was almost dying of anxiety, but she was locked in the house and couldn't move. "Oh, my girl, you are just smiling foolishly here. Why don't you dress up? The groom will be here soon." At this time, stepmother Jiang Yuting walked in, and Liu Cici's face returned to its mummy-like indifference. Jiang Yuting saw it and knew that she was thinking about Wang Daniu, so she comforted her. "Wang Daniu is fine now. He woke up 3 days ago." "How do you know?" Liu Cici was stunned. "You know, because of what happened in the woods, Jiang Yuting and Wang Daniu became sworn enemies. I came here specifically to see him." Jiang Yuting regretted the words as soon as they came out of her mouth, because her affair with Wang Daniu was top secret. Rather than saying that she cared about Wang Daniu, it would be better to say that Wang Daniu's qualities were really outstanding. After having sex with him once, it would feel boring to do it with other people. Jiang Yuting really can't forget such a good lover. Well, Wang Daniu is fine now, but his reputation has been ruined. I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to find a partner in the future. Although Wang Jiaojiao has clarified the matter, it seems that in rural areas, bad news travels far and wide, while good news never leaves home. When Liu Cixi heard this, she immediately became anxious. She threw the phoenix crown onto the bed and wished she could run to find her eldest brother right away. You girl, don't you think his reputation is bad enough? Go and cause trouble for him. Jiang Yuting persuaded her earnestly. Your marriage was arranged by the village chief Liu Defu, and the other party is the secretary of another village. If you run away from the marriage, it will be equivalent to slapping the faces of 3 families. You know best what kind of person your uncle is. If you dare to do this, Wang Daniu will be completely ruined. Liu Cixi trembled when she heard this. Although her stepmother Jiang Yuting's words were unpleasant to hear, they made sense. At this moment, even if it's for brother Daniu's sake, this marriage must be concluded. But when Liu Cixi thought that she would never see brother Daniu again, she burst into tears. Jiang Yuting is a person with a sharp tongue but a soft heart. She usually speaks harshly, but when she saw Liu Cixi crying, she felt sad. Come on, calm yourself down first, and don't cry on such a happy day. Jiang Yuting shook her head helplessly, closed the door, sent the people around her away to entertain the guests, and left Liu Cixi some space. In fact, Jiang Yuting was not thinking about the big guy who brought her happiness. After Liu Cixi's wedding ceremony is over, I'm going to enjoy myself. In the boudoir, Liu Cixi was still crying with her face covered, muttering the name of brother Daniu. At this moment, there was a noise outside the window, which scared Liu Cixi. He stood up alertly and shouted at the window, Who's outside? Gudong. The wooden window was pushed open, and a burly man appeared in front of her. Brother Daniu, why is it you here? Liu Cixi jumped up in surprise and dived into Wang Daniu's arms. The two hugged each other excitedly, and Liu Cixi started sobbing again. Wang Daniu held her slender waist and comforted her. Cixi, I'm late and I'm sorry for making you suffer. Hearing this, Liu Cixi pressed her face against Daniu's chest, feeling his strong heartbeat and a sense of security she had never felt before. I really wish time would stand still and 2 people in love could hug each other forever. But Jiang Yuting's words flashed through Liu Cixi's mind, and a bitter smile appeared on her face. Brother Daniu, we are destined not to be together. I accept my fate. I will get married. With just one sentence, Wang Daniu fell from the sky to the ground. What's wrong? Have you forgotten the vows we made to each other? Wang Daniu asked. Liu Cixi closed the door in a hurry, looking very nervous. Brother Daniu, I don't have time to explain to you, get on the bed quickly. Get on the bed and take off your clothes. Liu Cixi ordered. Before Wang Daniu could come to his senses, he was pushed onto the bed by Liu Cixi. At the same time, Liu Cixi began to quickly unbutton her clothes. Cixi, what are you doing? Wang Daniu asked in confusion. He couldn't understand why she wanted to do this with him when she was already going to marry someone else. Brother Daniu, I will fulfill our promise now. I must give you my first time in its entirety. Liu Cixi pointed to the clock on the wall. There are still more than 2 hours before the groom comes to pick me up. At this time, I am yours. I'm the bride, will you be the groom? Liu Cixi's trembling face made her look even more pitiful, which made her even more charming. As they were talking, Liu Cixi was sitting naked opposite them like a beautiful lady. Wang Daniu didn't dare to take the initiative in such a sexual experience. He really didn't know whether this was right or wrong. Brother Daniu, you must remember what I look like, and I will bleed. Liu Cixi was determined. She walked forward, hugged Wang Daniu's head and buried it in her chest. Wang Daniu couldn't hold back, his heart beat faster, his face flushed, and he passively accepted Liu Cixi's love. He remembered what Liu Cixi had said and was determined to remember her most beautiful appearance. Wang Daniu remembered every inch of Liu Cixi's skin that his lips kissed. Liu Cixi had never been touched by a man before, and Wang Daniu was her beloved, so a simple hug and kiss made her very excited. Brother Daniu, I will remember you, and you must remember me too. Soon the two of them fell on the bed in the bridal chamber. Chapter 23, True Love in the Heart, Evil Fire in the Body. With true love in their hearts and evil fire in their bodies, the two people fought to their heart's content. The clock on the wall was ticking, and 2 hours passed quickly. The two people forgot the existence of time in their world of two. Ding dong. The clock on the wall rang on the hour. It was 11 o'clock. Liu Cixi struggled out of the comfort she was in, and pushed Wang Daniu away with a lingering feeling. Brother Daniu, hurry up and get dressed. The wedding reception is at 11:18. If you are discovered by the wedding receptionists, someone will die. Liu Cixi looked out the window nervously while handing the messy clothes to Wang Daniu. What are you afraid of? If you haven't been to the door for a day, you are not considered Wang Gang's person. If they want to see you, then let them see you. I don't want you enough. As Wang Daniu spoke, he pulled Liu Cixi into his arms again. Liu Cixi shyly snuggled up to Daniu's chest, enjoying the last bit of tranquility. Brother Daniu, you are such a man. Big man. Wang Daniu teased, big where? In that vigorous battle just now, Wang Daniu's big thing almost pierced the sky, and Liu Cixi was extremely satisfied. Brother Daniu, you are so bad, you are big everywhere. Liu Cixi's face turned red again. Really? If it gets bigger, I'll chase you home. I don't care if your husband is there or not. Wang Daniu said fiercely. Liu Cixi also wants to live happily with a man like this. If I could, I would elope with you right now and escape to a paradise where there are only the two of us. Liu Cixi said with infinite yearning. Upon hearing this, Wang Daniu stopped talking. He had figured out his future path these days, and one day he would get back what God owed him. He couldn't keep Yang Mimi, and his childhood sweetheart Liu Cixi could only watch helplessly as she married someone else. Ultimately, it was because he was not capable enough. Sweet words cannot change the facts, and if you can't stop something, just don't say harsh words. Wang Daniu lifted Liu Cixi's face from his chest and his expression became serious. Cixi, I don't have the ability to keep you here now. Even if I keep you here, you will have to suffer with me. I swear, if I become successful one day, I will definitely take you to live with me. If I can't do it. Seeing that Wang Daniu was about to swear an oath, Liu Cixi directly blocked his lips with her own lips and bit him hard. Then I am yours. I've got it in mind. I'll be waiting for you. Liu Cixi bit her lip, a cold light flashed in her eyes. As for this arranged marriage, I will let Wang Gang know how powerful I am. The two were still talking when there was a noisy sound of footsteps outside the door, which slammed the door. Is the bride ready? The groom is here to pick her up. The MC shouted, and the crowd outside, who were watching the fun, rushed to the door. Inside, the bride-to-be was having an affair with her lover, while outside were crowds of relatives and friends. Once this door is opened, there might be a bloody storm, and the two people were completely panicked. Brother Daniu, please go through the window quickly, they have blocked the door. Wang Daniu pulled up his trousers and walked towards the window, but he found a fool waiting outside for something good, so he quickly shrank back. He looked at Liu Cixi anxiously and frowned, there is someone under the window too. What should I do? At this time, Liu Cixi was so anxious that she was like an ant on hot pan, running around the room. Gudong. The door was slammed hard. The bride is about to open the door, and the groom is anxious. I've given you the red envelope. If you don't open the door, I'll tear it down. The urging voices outside were getting more and more urgent. Liu Cixi thought of a solution in a hurry. She pointed to the closet in the corner and said, Brother Daniu, don't be impatient. You should hide in the closet quickly. I will find a way to get them out of the way. Then you can come out. Okay. Wang Daniu had no better choice but to bend down and get into the closet. Just as Liu Cixi was about to close the lid, Wang Daniu suddenly popped his head out. Cixi, you didn't button it properly, and your hair is messy. Okay? I understand. Liu Cixi didn't have time to say anything more and pushed Wang Daniu in forcefully. Liu Cixi brought 2 wedding quilts and placed them on top of the lid, only then did she feel a little relieved. She quickly went to the mirror, straightened her clothes, tidied her hair, put on the phoenix crown and bridal gown, and put on the boutonniere, and everything was back to normal. Liu Cixi finally breathed a sigh of relief, but still found her heart beating wildly and her face was as red as a monkey's butt. It's so unnatural, you can tell at a glance what to do. Liu Cixi subconsciously touched her face with her hand and was about to apply some blush. Boom! Before Liu Cixi was ready to cover up, the wedding procession broke in through the door. Wang Gang was the first to be hit and was forced to rush to Liu Cix's side. The groom Wang Gang waved his hand and red envelopes rained down, and the scene suddenly became chaotic. At the same time, the opposition from the bride's family to the marriage was completely dispelled, and happy laughter was heard in the house. Liu Cixi took a deep breath, pretended to be shocked, and looked around secretly, worried that the two of them might have left some evidence on the bed. When the groom saw Liu Cix's face flushed like a monkey's butt, he thought she was shy for the first time getting into the bridal sedan, so he didn't think much about it. Instead, he liked her a little. Wang Gang was a student at a prestigious university and had seen many beautiful women in school. However, when he saw Liu Cixi in her phoenix crown and bridal gown, she was still moved by his beauty. "Cixi, you are so beautiful today." Wang Gang whispered sweet words, which immediately attracted the shouts of relatives and friends who were watching. Come one, come one." Wang Gang was moved by her beauty and took the opportunity to move forward and put his mouth close to Fang Ziyi, ready to kiss her. Liu Cixi had already prepared herself to deal with the groom, but she still overestimated her own mental qualities. From the beginning to the end, the only man she liked was Wang Daniu. Liu Cixi was quite resistant to the kiss of the groom Wang Gang and turned her head to one side involuntarily. This disharmonious scene was about to attract everyone's attention and he would be in a difficult position to leave. At this time, a girl rushed out from the side and directly inserted herself between her and Wang Gang. It was Liu Cixi's cousin Liu Xiaodao, the daughter of the village chief Liu Defu, and this time she was the bridesmaid. Liu Xiaodao is also very beautiful. What's more rare is that she is also a female college student from a prestigious university, and she has a good relationship with Liu Cixi on weekdays. "Liu Gang, you are just taking this beautiful cousin away. You are thinking too simply. Yes, do you think there is no one left in our Liu family? Whether you can take the bride away depends on your performance." It was a good thing that someone was making trouble at the wedding. The atmosphere reached a climax again, drowning out Liu Cixi's embarrassment. Chapter 24: What to do on your wedding night. Seeing that there was another obstacle, Wang Gang gathered his strength and prepared to deal with Liu Xiaodao's attack together with his best man. Wang Gang was also prepared. He took out a big red envelope that he had prepared long ago from his pocket and presented it with both hands. "Sister-in-law, this is a little gift from you, take it quickly." Hey, you're not my brother-in-law yet, don't try to get close to me, I don't buy it. If you want to take my cousin away, you have to pass 3 tests. What do you think? Yes. The crowd was full of people who liked to watch the fun and were not afraid of trouble. Once someone took the lead, everyone followed suit and prepared to play a prank on the groom. That day, Wang Gang knew he had to obey unconditionally, so he immediately asked Liu Xiaodao to set the questions. Liu Xiaodao rolled her eyes and pulled Liu Cixi to the middle. "Wang Gang, what are you going to do to my cousin on our wedding night?" This was a very vulgar remark, and the crowd immediately booed. Wang Gang said, "What can we do on our wedding night?" "Of course, an action movie." Har. The crowd burst into laughter. Liu Xiaodao was confident that all this was within her expectations. "Action movie? I'm afraid you don't have the ability to deal with my cousin." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone burst into laughter again. Only Liu Cixi was frightened because she had just shed the first drop of blood. At this time, Liu Xiaodao suddenly turned her head and looked at her jokingly. "Cousin, can my brother-in-law do it? I have to try for you." This made the bachelors in the village excited, and they started to make a scene. "Then you and your brother-in-law should demonstrate first." "So Liu Xiaodao is waiting here?" Liu Cixi blushed with shame, and even Wang Gang's face turned red. There was a climax one after another outside. Wang Daniu could hear it clearly in the cabinet and could not help but smile bitterly. "If I had taken action earlier, this scene would have been my wedding, but now it is Wang Gang who is enjoying the glory." Thinking of this, Wang Daniu smiled with some satisfaction. Next, the wedding prank continued, with people taking off their shoes and jumping rope on a thorny plastic board, and 2 people performing a snake show, all of which were quite exciting. But Liu Cixi was the only one who looked absent-minded. Jiang Yuting saw Liu Cixi's distracted look through the crowd. No one is a fool. It would be bad if the groom's family found out. Jiang Yuting relied on Liu Cixi to remind him. He suddenly tightened his nose and his face changed drastically. Liu Cixi actually had Wang Daniu's body odor on her. This matter became a big deal. Jiang Yuting quickly left, found a bottle of perfume, and secretly sprayed it on Liu Cixi. When Liu Cixi saw her stepmother's strange behavior, she immediately became alert. "Don't look at me, don't draw anyone's attention," Jiang Yuting said in her ear while spraying. "You two are too careless in doing things." Liu Cixi was shocked. She obviously knew what her stepmother was talking about. But they were not in harmony. How could Jiang Yuting cover up for her? Here, the tests for the groom and best man are over, and now it's the groom's turn to carry the bride out of the house. Seeing Wang Gang extending his hand, Liu Cixi became inexplicably angry. It was this man who separated her and Brother Daniu. Liu Cixi raised the corners of her mouth and suddenly said, "Brother Liu Gang, the previous tests were set by my sister. If you want to marry me, you still have to pass this test myself." Wang Gang had long been moved by Liu Cixi's beauty and was drooling over her. He just wanted to marry her quickly and enjoy her in the bridal chamber. In response to Liu Cixi's suggestion, Wang Gang nodded repeatedly like a dog. "Don't worry, Cixi. I'm sincere to you. No matter what you ask for, I won't say no." "Okay, that's what you said." Liu Cixi raised her eyes slightly, squatted down coldly, and brought out a basin of water from under the bed. "What does this mean?" There was a lot of whispering around. In Daohua village, there was no such thing as a wash basin at a wedding. I wonder what Liu Cixi was up to. Liu Cixi raised her lips slightly and said coldly, "This is the water I used to wash my feet last night. If you want to marry me, drink half of this basin of water." As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere in the field suddenly turned cold, and the onlookers were extremely surprised. Liu Cixi's request is too tricky. She wants a man to drink foot-washing water? Cixi, don't joke around. Wang Gang was in a dilemma. "I'm not kidding. I will never leave this room unless you drink." Liu Cixi was domineering, with hatred lurking in her body. "Our marriage was originally arranged by our parents. You said you love me, so you have to show your sincerity to everyone." Liu Cixi secretly swore in her heart, "Brother Daniu, I said I would let this rapist know how powerful I am, and this is just the beginning." Wang Daniu in the closet felt a jolt in his heart. Liu Cixi was deliberately making things difficult for him. Was she trying to break off the engagement? But drinking foot-washing water is too extreme. There is no man in the world who can accept this condition. Liu Cixi also has a stubborn temper. Now that they are at loggerheads, things are going to be bad. Others had the same idea. Even the unruly and weird Liu Xiaodao was shocked and quickly pulled Liu Cixi's collar. "Cixi, you've gone a little too far." Seeing that things were about to reach a deadlock, the atmosphere on the scene was tense. Several friends of Wang Gang in the wedding procession were filled with righteous indignation and said, "You Liu family, please stop being so irritating. Are you not planning to get married? My brother is the village secretary, he is more than qualified for you to poke." The tone of the southern wedding procession became increasingly harsh. But no one expected that Wang Gang suddenly waved his hand and a smile appeared on his face. "Har har, we're all family, that's nothing, I drink." In full view of everyone, Wang Gang picked up the basin and gulped down half of the foot-washing water. Chapter 25. What are you two doing? In an instant, everyone was stunned and felt nauseous in their stomachs. In any case, Wang Gang fulfilled all the requirements raised by Liu Cixi. Wang Gang calmly extended his hand. "My lady, the auspicious time has come." Now Liu Cixi had no idea why he was going crazy and just stood there in a daze, not knowing whether he should reach out his hand or not. Jiang Yuting quickly pushed her and said, "Cixi, if you continue to be willful, it will not be good for all of us. You are not going to implicate everyone, are you?" Liu Cixi knew who Jiang Yuting was talking about. By now, Wang Gang must have already had doubts in his mind. If he continued to investigate, there was no guarantee that Daniu would be implicated. Jiang Yuting gave her a reminder and also gave him a way out. Liu Cixi gritted her teeth and took the hand that Wang Gang was holding out to her. "Music, hurry up, the groom is taking the bride to get married." The master of ceremonies quickly called upon the wedding procession. The sound of Swanner, 800 birds paying homage to the phoenix, rang out, and the wedding procession began to move. Such an atmosphere quickly covered up the embarrassment of Wang Gang drinking the foot-washing water, and Liu Degui's house became lively again. The procession with music and drums surrounded the bride and groom and walked towards the gate. "Everything is ready, hurry up and follow." Liu Xiaodao and the relatives who accompanied the bride also packed up and prepared to leave. I accidentally discovered Jiang Yuting standing in the bride's boudoir, with no intention of leaving. Aunt, why are you still standing here? Everyone has gone to their hotel. Remember, the wedding is about to take place. Jiang Yuting smiled slightly. Isn't I a stepmother? Is it that important? You guys go quickly, I'll pack up and leave right away. Aunt, what are you talking about? A stepmother is also a mother. Don't make trouble on such a happy day. Okay, I got it. Jiang Yuting waved her hand. My stomach is not feeling well. Wait for me to take the medicine. You guys can go first. Liu Xiaodao responded and then hurried out. The new house, which was bustling with activity just a moment ago, suddenly became deserted and cold. Jiang Yuting carefully looked around and made sure that there was no one around. She quickly went into their house and closed the doors and windows again. After confirming that there was no one there, Jiang Yuting's sharp eyes instantly cast a glance at the wardrobe. With a creaking sound, the door of the closet slowly opened from the inside, revealing a dazed face. It was Wang Daniu who was feeling suffocated. Jiang Yuting rolled up her sleeves, pinched Wang Daniu's ear, and pulled him out. Wang Daniu, it was you who did it. Are you obsessed with sex? What day is today? Why did you come to the bride's house to cause trouble? No, you came to have sex with the bride. Jiang Yuting accused angrily. Aunt, you've guessed it all. I don't have much to say. Wang Daniu smiled bitterly, looked at Jiang Yuting, and lowered his head embarrassedly. Now that you have caught me, you can kill me or chop me up as you wish. Wang Daniu looked like an eggplant hit by frost, with an expression that showed he had lost all desire to live, which made Jiang Yuting feel distressed. However, when Jiang Yuting heard what Wang Daniu said, she was filled with anger. What are you talking about? If I wanted to kill you, so many people would have said it earlier. How could they wait until now? Don't give me such a half-dead look. Isn't it that the woman you like has been snatched away from you? You are still a man. When you grow up and get your woman back, I will look at you differently. Jiang Yuting had long regarded herself as Wang Daniu's person, but Wang Daniu actually still doubted her, which made her angry. Wang Daniu threw it on the ground and scratched the back of his head hard. It was obvious that he had not yet come out of his grief. After venting his complaints, the feeling of heartache took over again. He quickly pulled Wang Daniu up, sat him on the bed, and poured a glass of water in front of him. Wang Daniu was really thirsty, so he picked up the cup and drank it all. I just can't get over this. Why are all the women I like snatched away by other men? I'm so useless. What do you mean they all ran away? I'm not doing this. Jiang Yuting said as she sat next to Wang Daniu. As for Jiang Yuting, Wang Daniu was purely using each other. He had sex with her just to shut her up. As for love for her, it was not even a question of it. But just now, Jiang Yuting not only did not add insult to injury, but also helped himself and Liu Cixi out of the crisis. Wang Daniu's attitude towards her changed. Don't you also have Liu Degui? Wang Daniu asked back, and Jiang Yuting was speechless. After being scolded, Jiang Yuting wanted to get angry but couldn't. She reached out and supported Wang Daniu's slightly bent spine. Daniu, I know you like Cixi, and Cixi has also decided that you are her only man, and she won't let that man touch you. I, your aunt, will definitely help you. Really. When a person is feeling down, a word of concern can be very encouraging. My little darling, let me hold you and don't think too much. Jiang Yuting lay on his legs. Wang Daniu suddenly felt that Jiang Yuting was not that ugly, and was actually quite attractive. Jiang Yuting took away Wang Daniu's virginity. Although it was forced by the situation at that time, in the final analysis, she was his first woman in the true sense. Wang Daniu was deeply moved and hugged Jiang Yuting from behind. Liu Cixi's marriage drained Wang Daniu's spirit, and this moment of tenderness made him feel comfortable. His throwing himself into his arms made Jiang Yuting even more itchy, and she let Wang Daniu do whatever he wanted to her. Daniu, the situation was so urgent just now. Did you and Cixi succeed? Jiang Yuting suddenly asked. Wang Daniu grinned. Do you smell my scent on her? Don't you know what my level is? Did you guess it? Boasting doesn't pay taxes. Jiang Yuting said she didn't believe it. Even if you can do it, it's my Cixi's first time. She will scream in pain. How can she be so brave? Aunt Wang, are you underestimating your girl, or are you underestimating me? I'm still excited now. How about you touch it? Wang Daniu said this, and deliberately straightened his hips. Jiang Yuting had always been lusting after his body, and now she was distracted by his enchanting actions. The two of them hugged each other unconsciously, not caring whose new house it was. They just treated it as a brothel and had to do it on the spot. Just when the situation was about to break out, there was a loud bang and Chen Xi's already damaged door was knocked open. A staggering figure almost fell to the ground, stunned by the scene before him. Liu Xiaodao, why are you back again? Jiang Yuting quickly let go, took 2 steps back, and kept a distance from Wang Daniu. What are you two doing? Liu Xiaotao's face was full of disbelief. She pointed at the two of them and couldn't say anything for a long time. Chapter 26, Uncovering Aunt's Secret. Oh my god, who are you? You didn't even knock before entering the door. I almost got exposed. Wang Daniu had his pants half pulled down and quickly pulled them up. Liu Xiaodao usually lived in the school dormitory and later went to college, so Wang Daniu naturally didn't know her. Liu Xiaodao also only knew that Wang Daniu was from Daohua village, and she didn't know anything else. The buttons of Jiang Yuting's bra were unbuttoned, and the lace fabric only covered half of her chest, half exposed. The hem of her skirt was lifted up, revealing nothing inside. Her panties had disappeared onto the floor at some point. The key point is that her thighs are spread apart, revealing the most private parts. Anyway, everything that should be exposed is exposed, and everything can be seen. The situation resembled a major crime scene. Jiang Yuting quickly put on her clothes and buttoned up the top of her collar. Then she cleared her throat, coughed twice, and turned around. Compared with Jiang Yuting and Wang Daniu, Liu Xiaodao was more panicked. Liu Xiaodao, a young female college student who is not very worldly wise, discovers her aunt's secret. How should she get along with her aunt in the future? Although Liu Xiaodao has an open personality, she is a freshman after all and has never seen such an exciting scene. She stood there in amazement, unable to speak for a long time, with one foot on the threshold, not knowing whether to go in or not. Why don't you close the door? As soon as the words came out of her mouth, Liu Xiaodao quickly covered her mouth. Isn't this just trying to cover up one's own guilt? When asked this question, Jiang Yuting was also puzzled. She had clearly locked the door just now, so why didn't he stop her? It seems that the wedding procession broke the door lock and it doesn't work. I'm fine. You guys were busy. I didn't see anything. Liu Xiaodao stuck out her tongue and was about to escape. Jiang Yuting glared and shouted angrily, "Stop! Are you blind and didn't see it, or do you think I'm mentally retarded? What you saw may not be the truth. You must listen to my explanation. You won't let me go." Liu Xiaodao felt uncomfortable all over and muttered to herself, but she still stopped. Jiang Yuting certainly knew that this kind of thing would only make things worse. If Jiang Yuting loses her job, it will bring shame to the Liu family. Liu Xiaodao will most likely go and tell on the family, so we can't let her go out and gossip about it. But just now, Jiang Yuting hardened her heart and made a decision, which might be able to settle the matter. Jiang Yuting first came to Wang Daniu and whispered a few words, and Wang Daniu's expression changed slightly. Then Jiang Yuting turned around, smiled and waved, "Xiaodao, come here, Auntie wants to explain it to you, don't misunderstand us, things are not what you think." Liu Xiaodao grinned, "Sister-in-law, you are really powerful. You know what I am thinking." Liu Xiaodao thought to herself, "I saw it all, I want to hear how my aunt explains her affair with a strange man, then I'll tell my uncle and see how I'll deal with you. Don't be so talkative. Just come over here when I tell you to." Seeing that Liu Xiaodao didn't move, Jiang Yuting said mysteriously, "Girl, I have something to tell you in private." Jiang Yuting tried to coax and threaten Liu Xiaodao, but Liu Xiaodao was young and was fooled in the end. With reluctant steps, he came to Jiang Yuting, "Aunt, just say whatever you want to say." Before Liu Xiaodao could hear clearly, she felt a black screen in front of her eyes and fainted. It was Wang Daniu who took action and knocked her unconscious. As always, any unstable factors must be eliminated in the bud. Wang Daniu put Liu Xiaodao on the bed and looked at Jiang Yuting. "What should we do next? This is the village chief's precious daughter, we can't kidnap her." Jiang Yuting didn't take it seriously and just smiled faintly. "Of course I have a way to deal with her. Although this girl is usually quirky, it's her bad luck that she ran into something she shouldn't have encountered." Hearing Jiang Yuting say this, Wang Daniu couldn't help but feel a little frightened. She's your niece. You don't really want to kill her to silence her, do you? Seeing Wang Daniu's horrified look, Jiang Yuting chuckled. Look at your cowardly look, what are you thinking? This matter won't cost her life. Okay, just leave it to me. If Liu Xiaodao can come, maybe others can come back too. It's not safe here. You should leave our house immediately. This is a place of trouble. Liu Xiaodao is a hot potato. Since Jiang Yuting said that she has a way to solve everything, Wang Daniu is too lazy to ask how she will deal with Liu Xiaodao. I quickly ran away from Liu Xi's house while no one was around. On their way back home, Wang Daniu called out sister-in-law several times, but no one paid any attention to him. This is really strange. Could something have happened? Wang Daniu searched the house everywhere. Sister-in-law, I'll be out for a while, where are you hiding? Are you hiding behind the door? Wang Daniu pulled the door hard. His sister-in-law used to like to play tricks on him like this. Unfortunately, this time it was empty, there was nothing. Wang Daniu was still not satisfied, so he ran to the yard and started shouting again. Sister-in-law, are you angry with me again because I went out without telling you? Sister-in-law, I'm not causing you any trouble, please come out quickly. Wang Daniu is acting everywhere like, where's my sister-in-law? Unfortunately, in such a big yard, there was not even a single echo. Wang Daniu was getting really anxious. His sister-in-law had never treated him like this before. Wang Daniu suddenly felt angry and scared. He was afraid that he would never see his sister-in-law again, and home without her was not a home at all. With a dry mouth and hoarse throat, Wang Daniu looked around and had to return to the main room. Suddenly I found a note left on the dining table. I quickly grabbed it and opened it as quickly as possible. There was a line of beautiful handwriting on it. Daniu, I'm going to stay in town for a few days. I want to find a kindergarten for Nuanuan. I've steamed a pot of Manchu. Remember to take it out and take care of yourself. My sister-in-law and brother couldn't have their own children, so they adopted an orphan named Nuanuan. Daniu knew about this. Due to a series of events at home recently, the frail and sickly Nuanuan has been living with her grandmother. In a blink of an eye, her brother passed away 2 years ago and the child is 3 years old. It is understandable that Jiang Yinhua wants to find a kindergarten for her. The reason why I chose to go to kindergarten in town is because my sister-in-law's family lives in town. Moreover, in terms of environment and teaching quality, the town is much better than the village. Besides, the child usually lives with his grandmother and has long been accustomed to it. This wasn't a big deal, but when Wang Daniu held the note, he felt inexplicably nervous. The note conveyed a message, that is, my sister-in-law might leave Daohor village and live in the town in the future. Such a big family would be mostly broken up without grandpa. Now his sister-in-law may pass away at any time, and Wang Daniu will have no relatives left. Wang Daniu suddenly felt empty inside. What was the point of living without his sister-in-law? Chapter 27 Save a Life. The glamorous world in town is much better than the village. What if my sister-in-law can't control herself and meets a man with good conditions? No, it is impossible for my sister-in-law to change her mind. It is possible that she was seduced by a bad person. Wang Daniu's sense of crisis grew stronger and stronger, and it made him feel a little breathless. It seems like it's time to start my own business and make money. Otherwise, not only will my woman be stolen by others, but I won't be able to protect my sister-in-law either. He quickly took out the divine dragon technique given to him by the fairy, studied it carefully, and found that this technique was indeed unique. The book says, if you practice this skill, you don't need to practice. No wonder the training was so intense and slow. Wang Daniu just felt more energetic than before, and he could handle 4 or 5 women at the same time without any problem. Other than that, there doesn't seem to be much improvement. Even if I go to the mountains to become a monk and practice hard, I estimate that my progress will only be superficial. When Wang Daniu saw this line of words, he felt a little sad and remembered a famous saying, if you want to practice this skill, you must castrate yourself first. How can you live a happy life if you cut off the root of your happiness? Think about the young widows in the village. Wang Daniu hasn't had an in-depth communication with his sister-in-law yet. But fortunately, Wang Daniu was overthinking. The divine dragon Dharma does not require any practice, but rather requires the accumulation of merits. The so-called accumulation of merit means being a good person and doing good things. The more good things you do, the faster your level will improve. Today is an economic era. If you want to be a good person and do good deeds, you need money to do charity. It's a pity that Wang Daniu is so poor now that he has nothing but his underwear and can't even support himself. Who else can he help? Now that my way to survival is blocked, is God trying to kill me? Wang Daniu was feeling a little irritable. He ate a few bites of food and prepared to go out for a walk, hoping that something would turn around. Wang Daniu walked along the village path with his hands behind his back for a few circles and strolled to the village entrance. At this time, a Mercedes-Benz squeaked to a stop on the side of the road. The car door opened a crack, and first a pair of long legs stepped out, followed by a gorgeous urban beauty walking out of the car. Her leather shorts and tight t-shirt were almost as good as a bikini. She wore a pair of frog-shaped sunglasses and had big wavy hair, which made her look cool and elegant. The woman's butt was wrapped in a leather miniskirt, and she twisted her buttocks greatly when she walked, which was particularly seductive. Wang Daniu was watching in fascination when the modern girl took a few steps and stepped on a stone with her high heels. She swayed twice and suddenly fell to the ground. "Oh my!" An old lady in the village who was there to watch the fun exclaimed, and several younger people quickly gathered around to watch the fun. Since he had caught up with her, Wang Daniu decided to join in the fun because she looked so sexy. The beauty in the crowd looked pale and as if she was about to die, which was in stark contrast to the way she walked with the wind just now. "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and move under the shade of the tree, or you will die of the heat." A village cadre called out, and Wang Daniu hurried forward. Several young men, some holding the man's head, some lifting his feet, carried him to the shade. You know what, city women are so fashionable and they smell like perfume all over their bodies. Just now, when Wang Daniu was carrying someone, he accidentally saw the huge mass on her chest. It was probably not even covered by a D cup. It was bigger than any other woman he had ever seen. After a while, the village barefoot doctor was called over. He was also a latecomer and knew only a little bit of medical skills. After he opened her eyelids and took a look, he determined that she had an emergency. He couldn't cure her and told her to go to a big hospital. However, the beauty's breathing became weaker and weaker. "I don't think she can make it to the hospital. If you can't do it, just prescribe some medicine for her," someone suggested. This scared the barefoot doctor, and he quickly packed up his first aid kit and hid away. "You guys should do it if you want to. If this person dies, you can't get away with it." When they heard that someone was going to die, the villagers who had originally loved to watch the fun immediately scattered like birds and beasts, and no one wanted to be involved in any loss of life. "Call 120 quickly." The village cadre shook his head helplessly, but it took an hour for 120 to arrive. It seemed that this woman was about to die here for no apparent reason. Wang Daniu didn't want to get involved in this mess. If he encountered a scammer, he would be completely bankrupt. Just as he took a last look and was about to turn around, suddenly the Shenlong Dafar in his body began to operate on its own, and streams of air flowed through his meridians. Wang Daniu suddenly thought that saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda, which is a great merit. The probability of Wang Daniu encountering this kind of merit is very low. Isn't this the best opportunity to improve his skills? While I was thinking, a series of information suddenly appeared in my mind. This girl is suffering from heart failure. Current medical methods are powerless to save her. She needs to be massaged with the Dragon Palace needle and Dragon Claw hand immediately to remove the blockage in her heart, in order to save her life. The Divine Dragon technique not only identified the woman's illness, but also rehearsed the treatment method in Wang Daniu's mind. One thing is very clear, this woman will die if she is sent to the hospital, unless she uses the medical treatment methods recorded in Shenlong Dafar. However, there is a very strict condition for performing the Dragon Claw hand and the Shenlong Dingdong needle. The patient must be stripped naked and undergo massage, acupuncture, and moxibustion. It is really not appropriate to provide rescue in public. This is truly a great blessing that has come to my doorstep. If I miss it, I will regret it to death. Wang Daniu gritted his teeth, made up his mind, and finally took a step towards the woman and prepared to take her to a place where there was no one. "Hey, Daniel, are you crazy? You dare to move the patient around? Be careful or they will blackmail you." "That's right. Even the doctor can't cure you. What are you doing there?" There was a lot of talk among the crowd. "By the time the doctor comes, the daylily will be cold. Can't you see that the woman is dying? Amid the surprised gazes of everyone, Wang Daniu actually took action, turned the child over and carried him on his shoulders. In an instant, white foam gushed out of the woman's mouth, looking horrible. Wang Daniu, you idiot, put the man down quickly. You will go to jail if you kill someone. You are going to get us into trouble. Everyone started to persuade them, but the circle did not disperse. Being afraid of death and greedy for life, forgetting morality when seeing profit, this is the typical mentality of ordinary people. Wang Daniu used to be like this too. Wang Daniu snorted coldly, please all of you get out of the way. Since I dare to carry her, I have a way to cure her. Even if something unexpected happens and this woman dies, I, Wang Daniu, will bear the responsibility alone. If anyone stands in their way and delays the treatment, don't blame me for being rude. Wang Daniu has always been a well-behaved and bullied guy in the village. Suddenly, a tough remark came out, which stunned everyone. Wang Daniu took the opportunity to carry the beauty and ran through the crowd.